It's on there, just go to the poll. Okay, but you need to use it. Look like
Excuse me.
Okay. Okay, we get started. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I wish to announce that the 48-hour notice was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Co-Star, and the New Co-Star on December the 16th of 2021, that a copy has been placed on the bulletin board and that a copy has been filed with the Borough Clerk. Mr. Bunnell? Absent? Mr. Gubertesi?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you on Zoom, Randy?
Yes.
Great, okay. Mr. Gubertesi?
Here.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Mayor Fox?
Here.
Mayor Fox, I have a point of order before we start this meeting. There's a couple of items on this agenda that I don't think belong on the agenda. Because a majority of the council did not want them on the agenda. So particularly the workshop discussion item on hotels and motels, as well as the ordinance introduction regarding hotels and motels as a conditional use. And then apparently we just got another ordinance introduction today, 5 or 6 hours ago, regarding zoning on changing the zoning on Main Street. So I don't think those items belong on the agenda because they were not approved by a majority of the council. And I would like them taken off.
So let me respond to that, Councilman. I don't think the spirit of the ordinance is necessarily take things, rip things off the agenda or get things approved up front. If there's an agenda item that the council wants on there, the opportunity to vote to do that, which in many cases they do. In the case of the conditional, the allowance for a conditional use for hotels, motels, I'm not aware of anybody saying they didn't want that on the agenda. I put it on the agenda because I think it is appropriate.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, listen, points of order are not up for discussion.
Councilman, can I finish, please?
No, you can't. You're going to listen to me.
No, well, I
The
actually.
agenda?
I had, Councilman, I had the floor.
Oh,
So, as I was saying, at a prior meeting, I think it was 2 meetings ago, we asked the borough planner to assess and look at conditional uses. And in addition, at the land use board, there was discussion about that in the last 2 land use meetings. So I think there's been a lot of discussion about this topic. I think airing this out on all sides of it makes a lot of sense. From a perspective of taking things off the agenda and adding things onto the agenda, again, the council can vote to put things on the agenda. I put things on the agenda. I don't think you have the ability to say, no, you can't put that on the agenda. We're voting no. But in actuality, you did not do that. So,
Mr. Mayor, a majority, we just passed a law clarifying this earlier this year, that a majority of the council has the ability to set agenda items. And we discussed it, we said our desire, a majority of the council set our desire of, we want an ordinance that bans hotels and motels, and we did not ask for one that makes them a conditional use. So it's really super sneaky to say, well, they never said they don't want this conditional use. We had a discussion, we talked about what we wanted, we put on an ordinance regarding banning them altogether, not for conditional use. So I don't think it's proper. We already had a workshop on this, so I don't think it's proper that we have this. Okay, so if a majority of the council sets the agenda, or it has influence on the agenda, tell me which 3 council people asked for this. Presumably you and Council President Sexsmith. Name the other one. And if you can't, then we don't have a majority to put it on the agenda.
there's any number of things on this agenda that were not approved by 3 council members. Any number.
But we don't object to them. I agree with you, but we don't object to them, so they stay. None of us objected to a tax lien, returning a few $1,000s to because none of us object to that. And we object to this.
So you object to the fact that we want to have a discussion that the land use board deemed inconsistent with what you're proposing, and potentially a compromise that makes sense for the total community.
Okay.
You're objecting to that.
So we already had a workshop discussion on this. I'm not in favor of wasting the public's time on another workshop discussion on this. And the planner and the town attorney made it clear as day when we had that discussion that if we want to ban these outright, we can. And the problem, the land use board found that it was inconsistent. The way we did it was inconsistent with municipal land use law. Okay, so that's why we want to ban them outright. So why would you put, if a majority of the council wanted something on the agenda, why would you put a conflicting ordinance on the same agenda?
I think what you're doing is you're putting an ordinance on here in a workshop discussion that needs to be had, because a conditional use in this case, if you want to vote this conditional use down in an introduction, do it. But I think it's appropriate that the people of the town have the opportunity to hear what a conditional use hotel motel on Main Street would be, rather than be the first town on the Jersey Shore to outright ban hotels and motels. I think our public deserves that. I think we should be able to work together, talk this through, and have a discussion.
Okay, but it's not about what you think, Mr. Mayor. Since you're not entertaining my point of order, I'm going to make a motion that we remove those 2 items from the agenda and the other one that was added a few hours ago earlier today.
I can clarify that. The one that was added a few hours ago, we could have actually probably pulled that into ordinance 2022-18. And because it's all really wrapped into one, it's just some more detail on 2022-18. That's all that 2022-19 is, as I mentioned to you in an email earlier today.
Yeah, and I'm not asking you to clarify anything, Mr. Mayor. What I'm asking for is I'm making a motion to remove the workshop discussion on hotels and motels and the ordinance introduction to make hotels and motels a conditional use. My motion is for that to be moved from the agenda.
There is a second, and the reason I second it is because the mayor does not seem to be acknowledging the fact that he does not have the power to add something to the agenda without the council's approval. It has nothing to do with the fact that the council has already discussed this at length. The fact that the council has raised significant concerns that the land use board, the question they raised was our inconsistency with MLUL, which our attorney then corrected and provided an update, which is 2022-15. So the fact that unilaterally, Mr. Mayor, that you added these to the agenda is inconsistent with our ordinances.
I don't think it's inconsistent with the spirit of our form of government.
Well, we have a very, very specific law that says the council controls the agenda. So I don't know what else you want to compare it to, but the law says the council controls the agenda. As Councilman Weber, I have the floor, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
As Councilman Weber stated, you and our BA and our council president and others develop an agenda which, for the residents' knowledge, is shared with the council the week prior to the meeting. Right. So during all of last week, the council was able to review the agenda, and if we don't, as a council, strike any of those items, we effectively are agreeing with those items, and therefore you have the majority of council's agreement. However, these items, the workshop and ordinance 2022-18, 2022-19, were added without any knowledge of the council, and we didn't see it until the public saw it, which is totally inappropriate.
Hold on, I think that the workshop discussion item and the two ordinances that are up for discussion right now need to be considered separate. Because it's my understanding that the workshop discussion item was on the original agenda that was posted.
Yes. it
That was
So
posted,
adequate
but never
notice.
agreed to by the council.
So I would argue though, Councilman, that ordinance, I'm gonna get the number right, hold on. 2022-15 wasn't on the preliminary agenda item.
We added it to the agenda, which is the
Right.
council's prerogative to
Right.
do that, but
Right.
no one added this except you, Mr. Mayor, at the 11th hour.
So
It was added Friday,
We
it's not the
added,
11th hour.
we added this with, yes, it was. We added this with
No,
clarity.
it wasn't, sorry.
It was never shared with the council. It went out to the public on Friday at whatever time, 5 PM. The council didn't see it until the public saw it.
So your objection today is at 3 or 4 o'clock today, not Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday?
So I made a motion and it was seconded. Can we get a roll call vote on this, please?
Mr. Bennell,
We already had a workshop on this. The vote to remove the items.
Item from the ordinances, we're gonna do it, just do two votes.
I'm sorry?
Do two votes, you should consider it separate, the workshop item and the two ordinances.
That's fine. I'm happy to have this be two votes. That's perfectly fine, as long as Erica can clarify which one we're talking about first.
John, I believe you have to amend your motion to be clear and distinct that it's for the workshop discussion, you need the first motion.
So I'm happy to amend the motion to say, to make it two motions, that we vote to remove the workshop discussion item on hotels and motels, since we've already had a workshop discussion on that, and a separate motion to remove ordinance introduction 2022-18, and I believe this, if I have the numbers right, it's 2022-18 and 2022-19, and let me, yes, 2022-18 and 2022-19.
I'll second your first motion, John, to remove the workshop discussion on ordinance for conditional use requirement of hotels and motels on Main Street.
Mr. Bennell,
I vote yes to remove the workshop.
Mr. Gubatose,
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith,
No, I think this is a discussion we should have with the public.
Mr. Weber,
I vote yes, because we did already have this discussion with the public.
Mayor Fox.
I vote no, and the discussion with the public included that we would go back to the planner and she would develop some options. She did that, provided it. She provided it on late this past week. Actually, she was at, well, I won't say why, but as the prior, as the other total ban was added on Friday. This too was added on Friday. There was nothing in the preliminary agenda on Tuesday, nor was I informed between Tuesday and Friday that this was going on the agenda. So it's kind of interesting to me that we say that the council approved this, but really 3 council people did. Were you made aware of this, Council President?
What?
That on Friday, prior to Friday, that this was the total ban was going on the agenda?
Yes, I was CC'd on an email from Council.
Okay,
Thank you. So do I-
I wasn't.
Our borough attorney drafted.
And
the
I am part of the council, but I was left out of the discussion completely. So that's my vote, no.
Great, that's fine. So if I need to make a separate motion now to take ordinance introductions 2022-18 and 2022-19 off the agenda, because once again, a majority of the council did not want them on the agenda. And just a commentary. I know you said that you thought the planner would come back and make some recommendations. That's fine, Mr. Mayor. But we want the planner to come back with recommendations that a majority of the council wants. There's no sense in having the planner come back with recommendations that a majority of the council doesn't want. But so that's my motion.
Second.
You have to second the motion before you can comment on it, please.
Okay. Mr. Vanel,
I vote yes to remove the 2 ordinances.
Mr. Gubatose,
Just want to say for the record, for the public, that this is purely an issue of procedure that is being violated. And the mayor understands what our rules are. He added this without council approval, without even discussing with us. Our own attorney and our clerk, and perhaps others, were aware that we were asking for this early in the week. So with that, I vote to remove 2022-18 and 2022-19.
Mr. Sexsmith,
No,
Mr. Weber,
Yes,
Mayor Fox.
No, but I would like, Erica, could you please read the memo we got on this particular item?
The memo, the one, okay, the one that I got off of the email for comments.
Yep.
For public comments.
I'd like that read into the record.
Okay, so I received an email on our council questions and comments email. And this is from Dr. Leonard Delory, President, Congregation Agudath Akim, McCabe and Central Avenue. Dear Honorable Mayor Fox, it has come to my attention that the council meeting this evening that a discussion and potentially a proposal is being presented on the prohibition of all commercial establishments offering lodging, such as hotels, to travelers and visitors. I must provide my thoughts of the potential impact as president of the Congregation Agudath Akim. I have grown up here in Bradley Beach and have started my tenure of president to revitalize the Bradley Beach Jewish community. As our community continues to grow with many new homeowners in Bradley Beach, one of our biggest challenges is finding accommodations for both tourists who have heard of Bradley Beach's beauty and others in the tri-state area who are considering moving to Bradley Beach and are looking for short-term accommodations so that they can get a better understanding and a feel for the town. Each year, we have hundreds of guests who are forced to stay in Avon and Ocean Grove, including some of my family. And while we are very happy to see the James open locally, there's still a need for more local town appropriate inns, which can bring tourists here who will spend money in Bradley Beach and possibly move here. While we are not looking for large hotels, which would dominate Main Street, we do believe that there is room for smaller inns, which will attract tourists who will support our town.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll now move to the next, we have 4, I think, fairly short workshop topics. Beach Avenue drainage, Beach Avenue drainage ordinance, and then 2023 daily, weekly, seasonal beach badge pricing. We start with Beach Avenue, I hope I didn't say beach badge drainage, Beach Avenue drainage. And Kim, do you want to kind of just introduce Ben to this
Yeah,
discussion.
and that here, to see in the engineering. When I first came to the borough, I had received some complaints from residents about some drainage issues on Beach Avenue. The DPW superintendent and Ben went out, they took a look, and this is what they have come up with. And also just to note, there was also residents who have actually lost vehicles total due to the high water retention from the drainage.
The other way the sign could be tilted towards the public, so you have your own sign back there.
The monitor,
Sign You guys can see it, maybe the public can see the larger sign.
It's supposed to be tilted.
I
And when-
requested it at the last meeting, and I don't see any changes.
Well,
probably because we had.
give us 20 seconds, and you'll have your change. Then if you tilt it, that's.
You can sort it out.
Hey, Terry, could you, Terry,
I got it.
Terry, Terry, could you move the flag, please?
Oh, so much better on the eye.
Can everybody see that? And can we on Twitch see that?
Yeah, water, please. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. Here to talk about Beach Avenue drainage study investigation that we performed. As Kim mentioned, this was based on some complaints that have been received.
We have water, please.
With your Public Works Director, we went and checked out a couple problem areas that have had some historic issues. This is a picture of Beach Avenue and Third Avenue. As you can see, the intersection is totally inundated, and we want to try and keep this from happening. So one of the things that we did was Public Works got a CCTV closed circuit television inspection of the pipes to just make sure there were no blockages. Pipes were cleared, and from what I understand, generally when this flooding does happen, it resolves itself in about half an hour to an hour, which to me indicates that it may be a capacity issue of the pipes themselves. We took a look at the existing system. There are a lot of shallow pipes, very shallow slope, and they're kind of undersized. The Second Avenue and Beach Avenue and Third Avenue and Beach Avenue were the areas that were the biggest concern. And some of the issues that we found had to do with the size of the pipes and had to do with the orientation. There's a strange on Third Avenue. You can sort of see here these dashed lines. The pipes take 2 90-degree turns right in the intersection. We think this is part of the problem. So we can clean that up by realigning the pipes, creating better flow through the system. And we also want to look to increase the capacity of the system. To go from a 12-inch pipe that's got very little cover from a pipe to the actual road surface. If we try and double the size of that, it's going to be sticking out of the ground. So what we're going to probably look to do is probably do twin pipes side by side to double the capacity of the system. And that will relieve some of these issues. As I said, increase the size of the pipes or the quantity of pipes, redirecting that flow that we talked about. And that's what we're here to discuss. That's what we put together some preliminary conceptual plans. And we're looking for the council to help us move forward.
That's it.
Okay, any council questions?
I have some.
Yes, sir.
To do this work, would this be independent of the this would be something we do immediately as opposed to part of the phases we envision doing over, say, over the next few years to upgrade our systems. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the area of this work overlaps with the phase two sewer program that's going on right now. So we want to get this work done now so that when the contractor that's out there now is complete the sewer work and ready to pave in the spring, this is already completed and we don't have to go back and rip up the road that's already been paved and then repave it again. So we're trying to get everything done as soon as we can.
Any other questions?
This
Yeah.
may be better for Ms. Humphrey than for you, but there's a resolution further in the back talking about CCTV inspections. Is that for doing the remainder of the storm sewer system?
Sanitary.
Sanitary system? Because these drainage issues exist all over the town or progressively getting worse. I mean, I'm sure it's deeper here because that's a low point in town, but even, on Lorraine Avenue, which is the high point, doesn't take much rain anymore to flood out the entire intersection anymore.
Yeah, as I said, it's this area in particular, and really all over town is very flat. You don't have a lot of, hills, there's not a lot of slope in these pipes,
Right.
and they're very shallow. So you don't have very large pipes with a lot of capacity. And, over time, as there's more and more development, there's just more and more runoff, and that's how some of these issues get created.
And in this particular case, because of the configuration of the pipes, the way that they're kind of laid out, it's even exacerbating this issue.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's all I have.
I have a question. For what amount of rainfall is this being engineered for? To handle how much rainfall, like a rainfall event of how many inches?
So currently the system, there are about 26 acres that drains to this system. Currently the system that's in place is not able to handle a 2-year storm event, which is only 3.5 inches over a 24-hour period. Typically, municipal systems are designed for a 25-year storm, which is about 6 inches over a 24-hour period. We're looking to increase this. We're not going to be able to get all the way up to the 25-year storm event because, as I said, the larger pipe size we go, the more the pipes are going to be sticking out of the ground. These are already very shallow ductile iron pipes, which are, you only use ductile iron when you have very little room from your pipe to your road surface. So as we go increase size, it just won't work, and we're limited at the outfall at Sylvan Lake because that outfall elevation is set by the mean high water line. So we can't just drop the pipe system down and get more capacity. We're limited to what we can do. So we're looking to double up the pipes and get additional capacity that way.
Right, Bo. So what's the rainfall in inches, and what's the year storm event that we're building for here?
We're
Do the best you can.
doing the best we can. We're not hitting a target storm event. We're increasing the capacity in order to reduce the frequency of issues such as you saw at the intersection of each and third.
Good. I say it another way, you're taking the capability up as much as you can at this point.
Correct.
I hear you, but I'm wondering if it's going to be, we're just going to have to redo this because we've had multiple rain events of, like 6-10 inches in the last few years. So if it can't handle that, I mean, we're only going to get more of those. So if we can't handle that, then I'm just worried that we're throwing good money after bad, because then we'll have to upgrade from whatever this is.
Well, I think the point is that it'll cut down the number of incidents where you have issues. Are you ever gonna eliminate the problem? I'm not sure that we will at this point without doing something that's very significant.
Right, so if we're looking to find additional capacity, we're then talking about redirecting drainage, installing pipes to bypass the system that's in place now, which is a much more extensive project, which requires additional permitting, a lot more time and a lot more cost to eventually install pipes where they're not now. And in this case, what we're trying to do is take the existing system and improve it while we're still able to, while the road is still, the roads here are still under construction for the sewer project that's currently going on.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Larry, I've got a couple, but there may be
Yes.
more. Yeah. Okay. Somebody else had one.
Go ahead, Randy.
What is the current slope from the high point to the outfall in Sylvan Lake? And what will be the new proposed slope?
The current slope, it varies on the pipes, but it's generally less than 0.5%.
What's the outfall? What's the elevation of the outfall?
I don't know the exact elevation. It's around probably elevation 1 or 2.
How many linear feet of pipe does it take to get from the high point at the construction site to the outfall?
It's about 1,000 feet.
And what's the invert for the outfall?
I don't know, I don't know it off the top of my head, but I know that the slope of the pipe varies because it's not a consistent slope from one point to the end. But it varies between 0.2% to 0.5%. I think, and most of it is around 0.3%.
So what's the percent slope that we're increasing it?
We're not increasing the slope, we're increasing the number of pipes and increasing the size where we can. Increasing the slope would mean that the pipes at this high end.
Yeah, I know what it means. I was just curious what it is. And what, you say we're not increasing it because we can't.
Any other questions?
Yeah. A couple financial, these may not be engineering questions, but I'll ask them anyway. We're talking about borrowing over a 20-year life, and I guess I was under the impression some of our other sewer enhancements were over longer than 30 years. Is 20 years the appropriate life across which we should borrow? Or could we push that to 30?
Anthony, do you want to, actually, that was prepared by bond counsel.
Bond counsel is the one determines useful life. We don't have a say over that.
And so they've already weighed in and given us that number.
When they
Yes.
prepare it.
Okay, because even offhand, the money we recently borrowed, the 4.5 million or so for most of phase 2, is that also 20 years?
I thought that, I thought it was leaning towards 30, but you know what, I remember going back and forth with the bond counsel. Do you remember which it was?
I don't remember.
I don't remember, because I remember we were going back and forth, and so a building would be able to be 30. The sanitary infrastructure they usually like to gear it to the 20, but I think it might have been the 30 since it was the main, I don't know.
All right.
It'd be a different funding source of like sanitary sewer, right? It's a different utility.
The other question, section 7 in the proposed, the draft ordinance references potential grant funding. Do we know at this point in time if there might be any grant funding available?
No,
There is none. We don't.
no, I don't know of any grants, no.
This type of project usually there's not a whole lot of grant funding available. There's nothing at this time that I'm aware
And you know, like stormwater runoff, things like that, if they're, you know, so I've seen dollars out there. I'm a liaison to the.
There are, yeah, there are, but not for like this type of project.
Yeah.
If you had maybe an infiltration of fecal matter in your beach due to stormwater failure, Ivan has a program for that. There's different programs that are out there, but not for this type of, this is just a capacity.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, do we want to just move in, well, into the ordinance, or we want to just hold that? This is on the agenda. I mean, I think we wanted to get both on the agenda, so we put that workshop item on, as an ordinance, but we have it in the ordinances, so I think we can push it off to the ordinance piece. Let's just do that. Then just go to the next item is 2023 daily, weekly, and seasonal beach badge pricing. The reason we have to get this,
No, but yeah, I got it. in my back.
discussed, and we don't have to finalize every element of it, but at least reasonably is, we usually have a beach badge say, oh, I'm sorry, Ben, thank you very much.
No problem.
Thanks for your insights. Thank you. You want to comment on beach badges, Ben, or no?
No, but we just want to buy something.
I like your Bible.
That's right. We just got a primer on discounting beach badges. So for those who aren't aware, what we've traditionally done in the last few years is we have an $80 seasonal beach badge price. We discounted from basically December 1st through January 1st by $20 down to $60, and then we extend.
No, they can't.
Now we extend the a discounting of about $10 down to $75 for I'm sorry, yeah, $75 from 70. Oh, yeah, that's right, 80 to 70. I'm looking at the number 75. I'm gonna reference that in a minute. To $70 through the end of March. That discounting it's about $235,000 that versus list price. So just so everybody's aware, it's a pretty substantial discount we provide, and we provide tremendous value. If you look at some of the towns around us, we're pretty good value at $80. I think Avon Spring Lake are over $100 at this point. I'm not sure what Ocean Grove is at this point. So right now, just with some preliminary discussion, I think the proposal we want to make is to continue with the discounting approach from 80 to 60 for the month of December, but cut the discounting for Jan, Feb, March to just January. That gives us about a $45,000 push off of this $235,000. So we're discounting more like about $190,000. We don't have all the budget numbers in, and it gives us a little bit of a margin. So that's the proposal that I've talked to Anthony a little bit about today. I spent a little bit of time just briefly with Council President Tim Sexsmith on it. We're not in a position where we have to discuss dailies today. Our dailies though are $12. We were $13 2 years ago. For the last 2 years, we were $12. So that's a conversation we kind of have to wrap up and get a little bit tighter. But I'll stop now and let anybody else talk. From a council perspective, anybody wants to make a comment? Yeah.
Probably directed to our CFO. Anthony, do you have a sense for how our beach utility ran this year? I mean, are we on a steady course? My last recollection, which is 4 or 5 months ago, was that we were anticipating incurring a deficit because we had a lot of one-time charges that we were trying to recover. We were not dramatically, in fact, I don't believe we were increasing our beach revenue at all, but I think we've added $400,000 to $500,000 of charges to the utility. But I don't know how much of the numbers we added were one time where we draw down our surplus versus ongoing. Do you have a sense for ongoing? Are our revenues, if they were to maintain the status quo, would they be sufficient to cover appropriations?
So the revenues right now are on course with what we budgeted. So we're covered there. So the revenues that were in the budget were adequate to cover the expenses. So the expense side, we still have a month left and there's some stuff that we're gonna be doing, small salaries we have to pay out. So we should be okay for this year. I don't see any deficit occurring this year or any over expenditures over this year. So we should be okay this year as far as how we end the year.
And just to be clear, I know, like, on a $2 million give or take budget, I know we had added $400,000 or $500,000. A lot of that was one-time charge, sort of recouping, pension costs and maybe some salaries from certain elements that hadn't previously been charged to the utility. So I'm surprised, I'm happy if what you just said is true, but I just want to test it. I'm surprised to hear that you think we didn't incur deficit, like just, revenue in versus appropriations. You think we at least broke even and maintained whatever surplus existed?
Mainly because it's all deterministic on the weather. I mean, if we have good weather, better weather this year than last year, we're gonna have more people coming in. We were pretty beneficial as far as how the weather turned out this year.
Yeah, we were about 200,000 over on Beach Badge revenue.
Most
projection.
meetings, I have provided the mayor with an update as far as what the beach badges look like, taking the VIPLE charges, the cash charges.
Yep.
The people coming in with credit cards and things like that. So, we are good for this year, just mainly because of the weather. I mean, we lucked out.
Right. But the appropriations is the side I was confused by. The appropriation where we added almost $500,000 in appropriations to what ongoing had been about a $2 million appropriation level.
And then we added revenue also. to all
Yeah,
that.
so that's the key point I just want to leave everybody with is, as our CFO, you're feeling that we're pretty close to a break even. We didn't draw down surplus this year, 2022, or we won't by the year.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anyone else, Council President, anything?
No, I'm good with the proposal to do a discount in December, $20 discount in the month of December and to shorten the winter discount period to just January.
Anything else from the council?
And Mr. Mayor, just to confirm, you're also saying keep the fee levels the same, just shorten the discount period.
Yeah, right now, again, we've been very fortunate in the last 2 years of keeping the seasonal badge number at $80. I'd like to try to maintain that as long as we can. It's maybe the last year. No other comments?
Mr. Mayor, is this a topic we could open to the public?
Yes, I was just about to. Any comments from the public? Yes.
Nancy Meadow, Ocean Park condominiums, regarding all the workshop items that were discussed this evening. It's not surprising, but it's disappointing. In the north end of town and it's flooding, was not brought up this evening. And maybe we don't have the same disastrous intersections. But I've certainly had a problem since my street was redone in the 90s. That's on the record since then. Regarding the beach badges, again, in the 90s, we used to put them on sale prior to Thanksgiving, so the people that came down to close up their homes and spend Thanksgiving in them prior could purchase the badges at a discount. We had lots of personnel changes, and I think that kind of got lost because they were put on the agenda late. And here we are again, not planning well ahead to accommodate those residents, or I should say homeowners. Disappointing, but not surprising. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we'll close that workshop then, and we'll move to presentations. There are no presentations. We'll move to approval of minutes. Make a motion to approve October 25th, 2022 council business meeting minutes.
Second.
Mr. Bennell? Randy?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Okay.
Mayor, If I could intervene for a moment.
Sure.
The workshop for the Beach Avenue drainage, it wasn't open to the public for any questions or comments. Would be a possibility at this time to do that.
Sure.
You have to do it.
I'll open up the workshop for each avenue drainage. Any comments?
Thomas J. Moran, 612 Third Avenue. I just had a couple of questions for our engineer, Ben. That picture you showed of the flooding, it looked like it was during the work, there was green pipes out that the sewer guys were working, so that's a very recent picture, you know?
I don't know exactly when the picture was taken, it was given to me by, the town. But I think that work was actually, one of the utility companies doing work there at the time.
At the time, so it's a recent picture, they've only been there for a while. And do you have any other historical, documentation of the flooding situation there?
Only what I've been told by the.
And we've had feedback from a couple of residents right there.
Sure, and will you be using ductile iron on new work? You're gonna leave the existing ductile iron, and then you're gonna put a new one right next to them soon.
Most likely, it hasn't been finalized, but that's generally the plan.
Great, and will you be removing the 90-degree turns? Because obviously those will come out.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw in the slide I had, those 90-degree turns can be basically straightened out,
Okay.
by adding a new structure, additional pipe, and we can correct
I
that.
can show you the photo, the
Okay.
printout at the end.
Oh, great, that seems like it should be done now, absolutely. And do we know if it was high tide at the lake when those pictures were taken? Because,
I don't know.
okay, because I'm just wondering, is there any backflow prevention from high tide from the lake?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's something that we would look at doing as well, possibly installing a backflow preventer, a check valve, at the outlet.
And so that can be done as part of this project.
That can be done.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Mark. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Hello.
oh, okay.
My name is Ed Pisa. I'm from 203rd Avenue, Bradley Beach. That is my home. So to answer your question, so we're clear on
Yeah.
that. I'd like to add a little levity. Can I
Yeah.
add a little levity? to the
Little bit,
moment?
but
Levity,
You
just a little?
talk to us,
Okay.
don't talk to.
I'm gonna add a little levity. There's no smoke coming out my ears.
Well,
I've
I've
been
had
there-
conversations with you before. when it
I've been there
wasn't
for 37 years, going back to Mayor Lowenstein. No, I'm sorry, Mayor Riley.
Yeah.
And I've had so much smoke blown up a certain part of my anatomy. It should be coming out my ears by now. So to answer your question. it's been
yeah.
going on for
Sausage pizza, you gotta talk. Sorry.
To answer that question, it's been going on for 37 years. It's been reported to this board and other boards back for 37 years.
Yeah.
The police department has come. So that answers that question. I happen to be in the industry myself. So to answer Mr. Brunel's question is, what we want to do is increase the volume. So that volume will clear that corner and other corners, of course, more rapidly than it does. We're all under the understanding when we have a tremendous rainstorm, nothing can be done about that. That's nature. And so be it. What happens here is that it sticks around for quite some time, half hour to an hour. People drive their cars through it. Slipping through that is a possibility, has never happened, but slipping through it and winding up in somebody's lawn or in their home is a good possibility if you try to go through that and step on your brake. So that being said, I mean, I think that it's a worthwhile project. I would love to see it done throughout the town, obviously. But I know for a fact that mine is going on 37 years. And while I'm up here, I just want to compliment the police department. I have to tell you, those guys are great. If it wasn't for those guys,
No.
they have come down and helped us many, many times. So we have a great police department. So just, if you need any information and pictures going back, let me know. I have them.
Okay, thank you for your, yep. Any other questions? Okay. We will move to public comments on the agenda. 5-minute limit, single instance on the 11:22 agenda, please. Any questions on the agenda? Yes.
Thomas J. Cohen, 612 Third Avenue. I saw something on here in the agenda in terms of resolutions. There's a resolution to CCTV the pipes. I've been coming to these meetings for a long time, and it was my understanding that was done a long time ago. Also, it's $183,000. And we don't even know if we have a feasibility study to sell this. So I would say it doesn't make any sense to do this right now. The sewers are 100 years old, and what's taking place on Valley Boulevard, Second, and Third needs to take place everywhere. There's no reason to put Band-Aids on 100-year-old sewers. So we have a program, let's stick with the program. To spend this money now to gather information, we know the sewers are 100 years old. So I would recommend voting no on that. Also, the ordinances that were taken off the agenda tonight, 18 and 19, I just want to clarify, it was improper anyway. Number 18 was posted on Monday.
Is this a question? I'm just trying to clarify, is it a question or a comment?
It's a comment.
Okay,
I mean,
thank you.
when I ask questions, you tell me it's time for
I
comments.
just asked the question.
Okay, I was trying to figure it out too. So those were actually improper because they weren't posted for the public 48 hours. Number 18 was posted on Monday, and number 19 was posted around noon today. If I could guess, I found it at 3 o'clock on the website. So those couldn't have been done tonight anyway. So the Councilman Weber was absolutely correct in handling it that way. Also, let's see the bills list I got. I would recommend that the council, I know it's a first reading, so I hope you approve the removal of hotels and motels from the GBW and GB zone. It should have been done a long time ago, and I'm happy that it's done now to protect the residents. I am a property owner on Main Street. We have parking issues. There's no reason for it. What I would recommend, and I don't like to say don't do something without giving an answer, is that you should really take a hard look at the bed and breakfast ordinance. That could be enhanced to take up a bigger part of the residential zone as the conditional use that it is. And it could be a grassroots effort to create more rooms for transient or visitors to this town, and wouldn't have to be a corporate hotel situation. So that would be my recommendation. I hope that'll happen. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions on the agenda? Yes.
Rich Destin, 603rd Avenue. With regards to the bill list, I had quite a few questions. So I'm thinking about.
I believe, did you not get the responses to the questions, Mr. Dustin?
Sure, if you let me finish, please. Address that. I had so many questions, these are all my tabs here. It's going to take me longer than 5 minutes just to read them out. So what I did is I went to Plan B and I sent my questions to Kim, our business administrator, and she was excellent in her response. Thank you, Kim. And I took up a lot of your time just before the meeting, and you did it for me. There's just a couple of things I'd like to highlight on this, just to emphasize the question, why I asked these questions. I don't usually look at them as closely as I did. There's some of the things that stood out to me. It is paying, a couple $1,000s for clothing for our employees. And in one case alone, $620. And I understand OSHA caps at $800, and these are realistic things that we do. I just question sometimes in one case, the amount of the clothing that's covered is including socks, and the only things really left out were jockey shorts and athletic supporters. I don't know why we stopped there, but we did.
I don't think athletic supporters are, they're antiques, they're not used anymore, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was gonna call it something else. I was looking for a more.
Yeah, no, they've been obsoleted, they've been obsoleted.
I just found. Another thing that popped out at me is paying $1,000 each for microphones. I've been in a business when I used microphones. You know, used to get contracts from celebrities that would specify microphones. Nobody ever came near that kind of money for, so I don't understand why we need that kind of a quality microphone. And the explanation was that the people were complaining about that they couldn't hear. Hopefully we'll be able to hear a lot better with that. Another one was a question I asked is, there was a tree removed for $5,100. And the answer I got that this was on borough property. Everybody have an answer as to where that tree was?
I have the listing. I don't have it on me.
Okay. The other one here,
Right, it's multiple trees, not one.
okay. It's a tree removal, okay.
Yeah, no, so that $5,100, some of that was not on borough. Well, it was all on the
Right away.
so it is on borough property, you're right.
Then on page 12, about the orange flag tree removal, $3,500. Was this on somebody's grass strip residential property?
That was on Borough Park.
Is that a residential?
Not like Borough, it was all borough property. There was a tree inventory done, so we decided to take care of all the borough trees as soon as we could. We haven't gotten to the yellow trees
There's
yet.
two separate line items for the same thing.
Correct.
With different costs.
That's right. One was red tag trees, one was orange.
And last two comments will be, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Nancy Meadow with the Park condominiums. I also had a bazillion and one questions on the bill list, which I don't know, we're looking at these months because I get a lot of what I consider to be unhelpful information. However, page 18. $884 plus for water for the library. This brings to mind several things. And first of all, library has its own funding. Why are we paying for library money?
I'm sorry, what page?
Why? Page 18.
Page 18.
It's kind of why do we pay for aftercare when it's a board of education expense? In addition, let's go into everything else with, I just have a water filter on my sink. It works. It cost about $35. And believe it or not, I personally installed it. So quite honestly, to be spending this kind of money and having it coming out of this budget, of course, I might hear, well, we didn't have the right line item. I don't understand it, and I would suggest that we correct the situation so that we don't continue to waste resources, financial and otherwise.
Nancy, just so you know, that was charged to the library budget. Library.
We buy it for them and they just charge it.
And again, why is it necessary? $35 and you get it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to ordinances.
I just want to check.
Oh, I don't
Does
see,
anybody mind if I move this back a little?
Yeah,
bit? I
keep this
can't see it. when it's like that.
I didn't see any on that other screen.
Okay, well, then putting what it was, we need to make sure, okay? No, that's my cover over, sorry. No, okay, looks like we're good, okay.
Okay, we're now at ordinance introductions. We'll start with ordinance 2022-15 and see where we go from there. Ordinance 2022-15 is an ordinance deleting chapter 258 hotels and amending chapter 450 zoning. The borough's revised general ordinances to prohibit hotels and motels on in the borough. We'll start with council comments.
I'd like to start if I can, Mr. Mayor. You know, we all campaigned and we all knocked on a lot of doors, and I knocked on I spoke to hundreds and hundreds of people in the course of this last campaign. And I talked to him about hotels and motels at every single door. And I have to say that 99.9, or, I don't know the exact number, but with the exception of maybe a person or two that had to think about it, nobody wanted hotels and motels, especially on our main street. Just want to make, for clarity, this doesn't affect our bed and breakfast. We can expand our bed and breakfast use, that's true. We could expand the bed and breakfasts to different zones. But I think it's going to protect the borough from having, large corporate hotel chains come in and end up with the big, Ramada Inn on our main street or something like that. So I'm very much looking forward to passing this ordinance.
I probably have a question for our attorney. Many people here probably tonight and others perhaps watching via Zoom recall that we did attempt to introduce similar ordinance that would add hotels and motels as a non-permitted use. But my understanding is, especially with the review of the land use board, that we ran afoul of some conditions that we're not allowed to include on a non-permitted use.
So it was inconsistent.
Right, so I know Mr. Cannon, perhaps you as well, worked on this redraft, and I just want to ask you, as much for myself as for the public, is there a quick summary you could provide as to what edits you had to make to this to make it compliant?
So the ordinance that you're considering now, it prohibits it in its entirety, and so it's not, well, first of all, it needs to be introduced, then it goes back to the planning board to give their recommendation and their analysis. And prohibiting it completely would not be an inconsistent, it wouldn't be inconsistent with the ordinances
With the
for
master
the
plan?
planning board, so it's consistent. We just need to get approval from the planning board.
And the one thing that, regarding the conditions that were inconsistent with MLUL, as I understand it. To the extent, I'm curious, to the extent a hotel goes before the land use board, a hotel applicant, and is approved, they have a unique situation that, and the land use board approves them. What conditions, if any, would apply to that hotel? Because I know we can't promulgate conditional use.
Well, you
right?
can prohibit the use and then put conditions on the use, and that's where the inconsistency
Right.
lies.
And that got us in trouble.
And so prohibiting it completely, there would be no conditions as well, because it would be a prohibited use.
Right, and the question that swirls around my head that I just haven't figured out yet is we prohibit it completely, but completely has an asterisk. You can go to the land use board and get a use variance. Right?
Right.
So if we prohibit it, we, the council, prohibit it and say it's a non-permitted use. You go and a given applicant goes to the land use board and says, we have a really unique situation. We really like this boutique hotel. And everybody is thrilled. But that boutique hotel, now comes into town. Are there any restrictions? Are there any rules that hotel would have to follow? My
The
guess is,
variance.
variances.
And so the way that the ordinance is written now is that it's prohibited, so there would be no conditions that would be able to be applied because it would be inconsistent. But if you put it as a conditional use,
Right.
then you would be able to impose conditions as well.
Okay,
And so those are the two options. The one that's being discussed now is prohibited, so there's no condition imposed on it.
and we did strike those conditions in this version.
That's correct.
Mr.
And then it
Cannon.
now has to go back to, if it passes the introduction, then it would go back to the planning use board for a similar analysis of the one that was deemed to be inconsistent.
Thank you.
Council President?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. As Councilman Weber and Councilman Gubatosi both said, that the original version of this that was put forward was found to be inconsistent with municipal land use law. The part they're neglecting to say is that it was also found to be inconsistent with the master plan for the borough, which is why the conditional use ordinances were brought up. It's just a shame, that we're gonna go in here and it's gonna come back and again be inconsistent with the master plan when we have an option that gives the same net result of banning large hotels, not having to worry about a big hotel coming in and getting a liquor license and having banquet facilities and whatever else. That would be consistent with the master plan. So that's my only comment.
I have a couple of comments. First, on the, on Councilman Lubitowski's comment about coming in for a variance. Actually, there's two comments relative to this. A year ago, when we combined, planning and zoning, I think it was Councilman Weber that said more than anyone else, this gives us the ability to have a good alignment between zoning and planning. And we should really take and minimize use variances. Well, we just put something in place that's going to potentially generate use variances if somebody comes forward. So point one. Point two, I don't see George DiStefano here, the owner of the James Hotel. But I would venture to guess if he were driving from Asbury Park down to, let's say, Manasquan, he might just keep going through Bradley Beach if it was a year from now, and you roll back the clock and you didn't purchase the James Hotel, didn't do the renovations he did, because it would be he would have a situation where he might not find this as welcoming as a community. So that's unfortunate. I'll counter Councilman Weber's comments, because he continues to put this Ramada Inn, Marriott, large hotel, which I think we all can agree that the chances of that happening are pretty minuscule, number one. And if I were posing the question that way to any voter, I would see that they would agree with me. A large hotel, banquet, liquor license. The conditional hotel motel work that Christine did, who's Christine Bell, who's our planner, precluded all that. And my last comment is, if we move to adoption on this, we'll have the notoriety of being the only hotel at the Jersey Shore that has a prohibition on hotels and motels. So it doesn't strike me as being that welcoming community that we want to be. So those are my comments. So if there are no other comments,
I have another comment, Mr. Mayor. I have another comment before the public. I want to remind everybody that the James is a bed and breakfast. It's under a different definition in our town, and people shouldn't put it in with this hotel discussion. And with the two things that you just said, I hate to point out the inconsistency, but on the one hand, you said, well, we're making it so people have to come in for a variance, and isn't that terrible? And on the other hand, you said, well, I don't think anyone's really looking to do this anyway. So you can't really have it both ways. I mean, either people are looking to do this and we just made it harder for them, or, I mean, you use that as an argument of, well, we shouldn't worry about this because no one's looking to do this. I worry about it because we have a bowling alley. I don't think the bowling alley is swimming in money. And I think because of where that property is, it's next to the train tracks, it's, on the state highway. I think somebody could get that property relatively cheaply, and that does concern me. So I'm happy to be banning this use.
I would just like to make one quick comment. Bradley Beach was also the first to introduce beach badges.
great. Okay. There's no public comments on introduction.
Okay, no further questions. I'd like to make a motion that we introduce ordinance 2022-15.
Second,
Second.
Brunel,
yes.
Mr. Gubatose,
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith,
No,
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
No, and just for the record, for all the reasons I mentioned, I was going to reintroduce or make a motion from the floor to reintroduce 2022, 18, and 19, but I won't tie up people's time with that at this point in time. because I do not think this is an appropriate, and I really don't think we gave the conditional motel or hotel, motel outline that our planner put together adequate discussion. Okay, we'll move to ordinance 2022-16, an ordinance supplementing the borough's revised general ordinances with new chapter 147 previously observed entitled Business Insurance Registration and implement new state law requiring owners of businesses and rental properties to maintain certain insurance coverages. I'll open this up for council comments. Yeah.
I have a number of comments / questions, but most of them pertain to the administration of this. So I understand the underlying state law and DCA's read on this. And just for the public's benefit, what we're talking about is having to track and maintain records of insurance, liability insurance, property insurance. So we have to do this across businesses in town as well as for rental properties, just to make sure that there's 500,000 of property damage insurance and personal liability insurance and so forth. So the onus is on us to do this. And this ordinance largely says, we're going to do it. We're going to identify a person, a registration official to do this. And we're going to charge $25, relatively nominal fee, presumably to cover our paperwork. But what this wasn't clear on, and what I'm hoping we can have some quick discussion on before we vote, is again, the process. So for example, and I'll read through my questions and then maybe Mr. Mayor, you can help respond if you or Ms. Humphrey already thought through some of the stuff. But one is just how do we identify business owners? I understand that's pretty easy, but the rental unit owners, I know historically we've had some challenges doing that. Well, question number one is, will we have a proactive way of identifying those individuals so we can communicate with them, let them know what's happening? Or, the question number one, is it just up to them to kind of know the law? Two is, how will these individuals be notified of this change in the law? Three, how will we track or enforce this? For example, originally the state law suggested that there'd be a website maintained, and my understanding is that's changed to now a position where each municipality will track their own insurance records. So my question is, how will we track it? Will we have a website access portal, whatever, that folks can go in and submit their information online? Will we have an Excel spreadsheet? Will we have paper files in a storage room? I'm having trouble understanding how we will act. And of course, with tracking comes enforcement. If people are not submitting this information to us, one, how will we know? And then two, what will we do about it? I know there are penalties identified between $500 and $5,000 in this draft ordinance. I'm not sure what drives the $500 penalty versus the $5,000 penalty. For businesses, they already go through a mercantile license process. I was just wondering if there might be something that could be done to connect the dots here, have a mercantile application include collection of the insurance paperwork. And I was wondering if a business has to pay the $25 fee, and maybe I'm wrong here, but the property owner has to pay a $25 fee. If they're not one and the same, if I own the building and the business that pays rent to me conducts the business, do each of us have to supply the appropriate insurance information, or is it one or the other? So I know that was a list of questions. I can hand them off afterwards, but are any or all of these considerations being addressed?
Yeah. So first, we had to come up with rental registration.
Yep.
That's something that we wanted to workshop, but it didn't make it in due to other workshops that
Part of the
happened
short-term
here.
rentals.
Yeah, so rental registration is where you then have your registration tracked. And that is also the way that we could also communicate with the people that are already registered for rental registration once it's up and going. For tracking, there is a. Sorry?
Sorry, could you?
sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So, tracking. So what's gonna happen is we paid to get, a module put into our current database that the construction and code office works on. So that will track, everything that we have. And remember the ordinance to charge, it's not only just for somebody coming in and handing the paperwork in, because that might seem simple enough. It is actually tracking it, and it is the time that we have to make sure every quarter, we make sure we get what we are supposed to receive. If it's not received, and then those, summonses would be, or violations would be written out. The, judge would make the decision on the amount of the fine. Because that would be a court offense.
Okay.
And code enforcement office, they would be the ones that would be doing this, with our technical assistant to the construction official and code enforcement officer. Hold on, I can't read my writing here. Mercantiles are a different thing. Mercantiles are a different ordinance. They are a different, area of the borough code. They are not affiliated with your, with this here, insurance.
Yeah, and
regulation.
my thought there wasn't about, somehow aligning the ordinances themselves, but the process of collecting the mercantile.
Yeah, so mercantiles are handled by the clerk's office. We decided that the code enforcement office would be the best place to do this, being that they do CO inspections. It's just, a better process for the borough
So
administratively.
in that regard, the business owner will have to go through two different processes. I was just wondering if there was a way to consolidate it for their benefit.
Yeah, I mean, it probably could be that we have both forms together for registration for the beginning of the year. That's just a forms process. I don't think that they aren't going to go to two different departments or offices because everybody pays at the cashier's office. That's something that we streamlined in the past year as well.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, I'll make a motion to introduce 2022 16.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
There's been a big push to help out businesses on Main Street last couple of years. And I don't think that this feeds into that. It's kind of a nuisance fee. So I'm gonna vote no.
Mr. Gubatose?
Well, I kind of agree with what Councilman Vanel just said. I do feel it's a relatively small fee and the only reason I'm going to vote yes, because Ms. Humphrey did say there's been some cost incurred to set up the tracking mechanism. And there will be some cost incurred for following up with individuals who are not compliant. I don't know if $25 is the right amount. I don't know if it's too high or too low, but it seems.
So what we did was, this actually is more the boilerplate that the municipalities for New Jersey Managers Association is using in all towns. And the fees were actually, most fees were $50, so we actually lowered the fee a tad bit.
It didn't seem unreasonable to me, so I'm gonna vote yes. I guess my hope is that we'll track this and just make sure that if we feel it's more than we need, that we can reduce this fee.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Okay, communications, we have.
Now we've got a couple more ordinances.
Oh, no. I thought we got them all.
17 and 14.
You have one more under introduction.
Oh, 17, I'm sorry.
Got the bond.
I'm sorry, I had notes on it. Yep. I'm sorry, 17, bond ordinance 2022-17. The bond ordinance providing for various drainage improvements along Beach Avenue and Bradley Boulevard located in the borough of Bradley Beach. Of course, appropriating 400,000 thereof and authorizing the issuance of 380,000 bonds. And notice to finance a portion of costs thereof authorized and in the borough of Bradley Beach in the county of Monmouth, state of New Jersey. I'll open that for council comments.
Question.
Yeah.
The 400,000 is obviously the total total amount that we would be looking to borrow. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'll start 380,000, 20,000.
It's the total amount of the project,
Yeah,
400.
20 down, 380. I was trying to reconcile that with the cost estimates of 350, which I know don't include the engineering. So my understanding is the engineering was, engineering and legal fees and so forth was 80.
So what it is it's contingency built into the project because costs they escalate. But what happens is, how Anthony and I, bond for projects is, we don't actually bond for the project, we ban it, right? Like, we're not gonna go and do permanent funding on the project until we get bid results back in, and we actually have a project that's done. So you can cancel out. Which is something that the borough should do anyway.
Okay, so it's the 400, just kind of the 380 that we're involved.
It's a suggestion from bond council, actually.
I'm just
Yeah,
kind of
mhm.
numbers oriented, and the 350, including the contingency, plus the 80 was getting me over 400, and I was kind of understand why we fell short a couple, 20 grand or something.
It was just that's the number that bond council figured would be a safe amount.
So if we end up running a little shy, we'll just have to come up with the extra 20 grand or something.
We would have to amend the ordinance. If you want to go for more, we can go for more. You can change it at this point of the introduction,
Well, that's why I'm
but
asking.
Anthony would have to do a supplemental debt amendment.
So again, not trying to be difficult, I'm just looking at it saying, the estimate given to us is 350,
Mhm.
and we're separately told there's another 80 of engineering and other fees.
No, the
No?
engineering's in that money. The estimate that was given in the packet for the workshops included everything. I can. Hold on.
Is it all just,
Let me just take a look.
okay, sure.
Yeah, mhm. Yeah, so 352 is what it should come out to, including engineering.
The engineering, it's not a separate line item then, because I'm looking.
It
at-
is at the 15 construction contingency, they put it into that number. It falls into that number on page, if you're looking at this. Right,
Okay, but that is 45,000, but separately, the ordinance says it's 80,000.
because they have to take the bond council, this is from the engineer, this is from the bond council is recommending these numbers. When they look at these numbers, bond council recommends these numbers.
Bond councils, including cost of issuance and possible debt rolling on the plans each year,
Yeah,
the engineering cost, the design. So the engineer isn't gonna factor in those bond costs, and all that type of stuff. The bond council's factoring that additional cost in.
Okay, so the engineers got their cost in here in that 15%.
correct,
But they don't have the other costs.
correct.
Okay, then that gets us closer to the 400. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Okay, if not, I'll make a motion to introduce 2022-17.
Mr. Vanel, Randy,
He's on mute. Maybe he doesn't know it.
Yes.
Josie,
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
Yes. Okay, under adoptions, we have one ordinance, 2022-14, an ordinance amending chapter 450 zoning of the borough's revised general ordinance to include a new section entitled development fees. On this ordinance, we will first get council comments and then have an adoption hearing with the public. First, any council comments?
We discussed this obviously at introduction. I have no comments.
Okay. Right, then I will close council comments and make a motion to open 2022-14 adoption hearing for public comments.
Second.
Mr. Vanel,
Yes.
Gubatose,
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
Any public comments on 2022-14? This is the adoption hearing. There are no comments, so I will close the motion. I don't see any. No hands up.
No,
I'll make a motion to close the adoption hearing and move to approve resolution, I'm sorry, to approve 2022-14 at this time.
Second.
Mr. Bennell,
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose,
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes,
Mayor Fox.
Yes. Okay, under communications, we have one resignation on the Recreation Committee, Julie Titus. We thank her for her service. She resigned effective November 2nd. We've now moved to resolutions. First, the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have 5 items. 2022-251, the bill list for November 22nd, 2022, 2022-252. Approval of lien redemption refund in the amount of $23,354.55 for 400 Main Street. 2022-253, approval of tax and sewer overpayment refunds for 602 Fletcher Lake Avenue in the amount of $1,058.60. 2022-254, authorizing the Levo deposit rental fee refunds, each in the amount of $250 for Linda Peterson and Sonara de Oliveira, or if I mispronounced. And 2022-255, approval of the on-premise raffle license 2022-7 for St. Teresa of Calcutta Parish. Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
second,
Mr. Bennell, Randy,
he's muted again.
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose,
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes,
Mayor Fox.
Yes. Okay, we have 7 individual resolutions. The first is 2022-256 governing body certification 2021 audit. Make a motion to
Larry, a question for the council.
yes, sure.
Okay, thank you. I did ask, and Christina, I know you provided a quick answer on, there's a question again for the public's benefit, that I had asked regarding, what's the nature of the evidence of compliance? So if we approve this tonight, we, the council, are saying, we agree that, I think we're saying we agree that we are compliant with the state statute. Now, we.
No.
Well,
yes, which is,
Well,
and the
with
state
it- with
statute,
yeah, finish.
yes, with, and the state statute's requirement is that you have a resolution of certification stating that you received and reviewed just those sections of the audit report.
specifically the comments. section.
Yes.
And my question is, and I asked you this, I don't know if you had a chance to respond or not, or maybe I missed it, but.
I
there's-
did not.
Oh, there's a separate 45-day period we have to do something. Once
Which is
we,
this,
I'm sorry,
which is this,
so we only received this report like yesterday.
right,
So I thought we had 45 days from yesterday or not?
you do, yes, that's correct.
Okay, so, so we don't have to approve this today, then we could approve it in our December meeting or?
You have 45 days, so council's pleasure. Whatever you want.
Okay. The reason I'm asking this is because I did look at it. If we're talking about just looking at the comments, I looked at them and they seem to be very good to me as an ex-auditor. There was a lot of insightful comments addressed. But I was hoping to have the opportunity to understand that better, to, talk to an auditor. Now, I don't know from a state statute standpoint what the state's looking for. If they say, hey, you looked at it, we're good. But I feel like when I say I've looked at it, I want to say I understood it.
Okay, so the statute's requirement, word for word, is that the governing body had personally reviewed as a minimum those sections. And so it's your interpretation of the word review.
Which is about 5 pages or so, I think.
Yeah.
So it doesn't say that you have to have understood it, so you have to have reviewed it. If you reviewed it and you met the requirements of the statute.
I'm personally inclined to not vote for this. So I guess the question really is, I'll leave it to my colleagues. I'll telegraph that I'm not gonna vote for this current state, but I could see tabling this to next month's meeting. I'm not even gonna make that motion. I'll let others decide.
So your vote's no.
I don't think that there was-
Yeah, right now, I'm just making comments. We're not going through a roll call yet. Any other comments I would welcome?
Well, I was actually gonna make I was gonna make a motion on resolution 2022-256, so you. Governing body certification 2021 audit. Any other questions by the council?
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I understand what Christina's saying. Since we have 45 days to do this, and you just said we can do this at the December meeting, like, is there any downside to not doing this right now? I mean, it seems like it's probably better to it, because Councilman Gubatose is right. We just got this a couple of days ago. And I know it's not the whole report. I fully understand. It's not reading the entire, 200-page audit. Excuse me. But is there any downside to just tabling this, waiting on this, and doing it at the next meeting?
Anthony, do you have any comments?
The next step in completing the audit is submitting it on FAST, the state's portal. So I can't complete the submission to the state for the audit to progress our process until the council accepts it. Which slows up certain other systems, but I can't complete the audit submission to the state until you guys accept the audit.
So Anthony, a number of the comments were about controls that needed to be in place that weren't, or some of them were actually recommended a year ago that are not yet implemented. And some of them were, I don't know, payments that were made or in excess of appropriations, but there's no information, there's no detailed information. Do we make an expenditure that was $5 over the appropriation or $500,000? There's no information about why we waited a year and hadn't had a chance yet perhaps to make changes that were recommended a year ago. And I was hoping to have dialogue with yourself or specifically with the auditor just to better understand those comments. I mean, that's what I was thinking, but I wanted to try to strike a balance. Like, for example, if we vote on this tonight to approve it, to move your process forward, will we, the council, still have an opportunity to discuss the comments with the auditor? I know the mayor and the BA, and I presume you have already had a conversation, but the rest of the council is not.
I mean, yeah, you guys can have all the conversations you guys want. I guess a follow-up question would be, are you planning on changing anything in the audit report? Is that why there would be a delay, or?
Well, I just feel like we're at I'll speak for myself. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage, not having had a chance to talk to the auditor, and while the comments struck me as being very good, very,
There weren't any criticals or any minor comments. Yeah, we asked that question.
yeah, but
So no expenditures were like crazy high or anything like that. It was just cleaning up a lot of stuff from the past year that Anthony's uncovered throughout the year.
Well, yeah, I mean, Anthony came in December, so he was not the CFO.
Right.
He didn't own that budget that was adopted. There were departments that were not set up with enough funding and it was overexpended. Now the difference between maybe a different administration would be that they would allow over expenditures where Anthony and I know that you cannot have an over expenditure. That's why it's in the audit. It doesn't matter if it's a penny or $10,000. You're not allowed over expenditures. So you'll see in December, we'll do a transfer of funds. There were things that I've been through this before. I think the public knows things just were not allocated properly. And sometimes you don't really understand what should be allocated where until it exists before you, and then you can go ahead and reallocate it to the proper area. So those are more or less the things in the audit that were found which now we live and breathe the budget, so we understand it better for the next year. Certain things weren't corrected, because they really couldn't be corrected from the prior audit, because we couldn't even understand why they existed. So you have to find out and get into the weeds of why does this account have this, and why would that account charge that? And then work it all out, and which I think we have a pretty good understanding now. We know what accounts have to be closed out, which ones exist that shouldn't exist, which ones had to be created, and the correct allocations to the appropriations.
Yeah, Anthony, to answer your question, I'm not sitting here thinking I want to change any of the audit report. My issue is just as a member of the council being asked to approve things, it happens to be, this particular agreement on the audit report. It would be nice if we had information, we, the council, me as a council member, had information shared in advance of a vote like this, so that you guys have had a chance to talk to the auditor. The mayor just made some reference that he knows these were minimal incursions into overspending and so forth. Speaking only for myself, I have no insights beyond what I read on the paper. And some of the insights that have been shared with your team, the CFO, the BA, and the mayor, and anyone else that might have been involved, I don't know, Council President Sexton was and all, but I was not. And in order for me to vote for this, I'd just like to have more information as to, how these comments were compiled.
Yeah, the review we had was, correct me if I'm wrong, King, was Friday. The audit was not ready till Friday. I think I sent it out the next day. So we try, and then the few tweaks, very minor, just a couple of descriptors we asked to have included. We're done today, and we sent that out today. So I think anything from Friday to today was really just merely a couple better definitions, like on who was responsible for particular areas. There weren't any numbers changed.
No.
So that's unfortunately, I would have liked to have gotten this.
I
audit
believe
report
what
back earlier.
changed for the audit. I'm sorry, I had to think for a second what it was going to be, because we had to decide on how we wanted to handle it, and it was just a comment saying that the borough declared an emergency that they didn't cancel.
Right.
And then we had to cancel it in the next year, and we had to acknowledge the fact that there was an emergency that was not canceled in the year that it was made.
Right.
That was the difference in the audit from Saturday to comment today.
So if we vote to table this tonight, does this impact your ability to, for budgeting for next year, getting that process moving?
So we can't complete a budget until I submit the audit in fast. The state won't even accept it. They won't look at it. They'll completely put it aside.
I don't know why we affirmed that we received the audits and reviewed the comments, and if there's subsequent questions from there that can be asked.
Is the intention to have the auditor here at the December meeting?
I think he would answer any questions anybody had. Okay, so I'll make a motion to certify the 2021 audit.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't receive this until about noon on Sunday, and I was deep in the throes of total knee replacement, which happened early Monday. I got home about 2 o'clock today and had all kinds of stuff going on, physical therapy. So I didn't get a chance to review this. And as I'm looking at this resolution, it says the members of the governing body have personally reviewed as a minimum the annual report of audit and specifically the sections of the annual audit entitled comments and recommendations. Now, in my little pea brain, in order for me to understand the comments, I have to do at least a summary review of the whole report. And even if I wasn't in the hospital for 36 hours, it probably wouldn't have happened. It's kind of frustrating to me because the date on the audit that I received is November 3rd, but I didn't get it till the 20th. So I'm going to have to abstain.
Okay.
Mr. Gubatoni?
Yeah, I mean, I do have an email from you, Mr. Mayor, saying preliminary draft audit report of November 3rd, 2022. So the fact that, you know, we got this over the weekend and really got the final draft yesterday, I'm going to vote no.
Yeah, I can tell you that we had the review for this audit on Friday. We did not see a document until Friday. I didn't see a document until Friday. That's correct. So the date may have been just something that Mr.
They were, I
Oliver
think,
changed.
go ahead,
He's what?
Anthony.
So I can comment on the November 3rd date. So keep in mind, I had 10 years of audit experience with municipalities. So the November 3rd date represents when Mr. Oliver completed his peer internal review of the documents. That's when he gained an assurance of all the balances that they were not materially misstated. So November 3rd isn't when it was submitted to you guys. It's just that Oliver's internal date as far as when he gained a safe assurance for him to protect his license as far as what he felt was adequate and materially not misstated.
And
But
then
it
we
has
had,
nothing to do when you guys got it. It's completely on his side.
right, because we had to also wait for our legal representation letter as well.
Yeah.
So when was this submitted to the borough? I'm curious.
Last week, like, I think it was like Friday.
You had the meeting on Friday as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the first time you saw this.
Yep.
You know, what's frustrating, and people I know, I knocked on many doors with Mr. Weber as well, and while John heard really positive things about, you know, making sure we restrict hotels, I heard many negative things about divisiveness and not getting along, and why can't we work together better? And the biggest challenge I have is we, the council, tend to get information very, very late in the process, if at all. And at some point, it may appear to be divisive to our residents, and I apologize for that. But at some point, you know, we have to share information more openly and more clearly. I will take you all at your word that this was delivered on Friday, and I'll change my vote to yes. But there's got to be better sharing of information with the council. You can't ask us to vote on things, giving us information the day before or 2 days before. And we talk about communicating things 48 hours in advance to the public, and Mr. Cohen consistently reminds us all of that requirement. But there are times where the council sees things at the same time as the public, or sometimes after the 48-hour period has commenced. And we just have to be better working together so that we all have enough advanced time to review these things. Erica, I am voting yes.
Mr. Sexsmith,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
Yes. Okay. Resolution 2022-257, establishing the seasonal beach bed prices and sale dates for 2023. Make a motion to approve. 2023.
We, so the prices are $80, regular price for the adult is $80, for senior and junior is $35. The first discount is $60 from November 30th through December 30th. Then it's $70 from January 3rd through January 31st, correct? Okay, I just wanted to make sure we got those
Tim, can you
changes.
just repeat that for me? I'm sorry.
Oh, he has a written note.
Good, thank you. Okay,
All right, just want to make sure.
My apologies. I didn't have a copy of the resolution. That's my
Okay.
fault. Thank you very much. Thank you. Sorry about that.
2022-257.
Second,
Mr. Bennell? Randy?
Yes.
Randy? Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
yes,
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. 2022-258, approval of the 2023 SCAT agreement. Make a motion to approve 2022-258, excuse me.
sorry,
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
yes,
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. 2022-259, a resolution authorizing window contracts. Make a motion to approve 2022.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I have some questions on this. I don't understand this at all. I don't understand what the work was, what happened in these contracts? And why are we approving them this way? I just felt like there's not a lot of information along with this. So maybe our borough administrator has some answers.
yeah, we approved the same one last November. What this is it's a contract that has now met pay to play. Anything over $17,500, but below the bid threshold of $43,99999. It needs to have a window contract saying, yes, we know that we spent over the flow threshold and now we're into pay to play, but we didn't meet the bid threshold. But it's really on my part as the purchasing agent. I get the EEOC paperwork from the companies and get all that required pay to play paperwork.
But there's 3 different contractors listed. What
The
was-
3 contractors that aren't either state contract co-op, bidded vendors, or met by some other type of RFP that we spend over that amount.
And what did they do for that amount of money? That's what I'm saying. It's not.
So that doesn't really, that's not what this vote is for. This vote is just saying that we spent between that amount of money for the vendor. So these are just regular borough vendors that we use on a regular basis, and they just hit the dollar threshold. We're not questioning their services in this resolution.
Okay, well, is it some kind of secret? And if it's not, can we just tell everybody
Oh,
what
yeah.
it's for?
We paved with the Manalapan Paving Group, a couple alleyways. Mazda Recycling is our recycling vendor, and Tony Sanchez it's a vehicle outfitter of some sort.
Okay, thanks very much.
And this is an aggregate of under 44,000. It's not each vendor 44.
I would then have to bid it out if it was aggregate.
Okay, and make a motion to approve 2022-259 resolution authorizing window contracts.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
I'll vote yes, and I would just request that next time we have a better description, because it doesn't sound like this has anything to do with windows.
That's the state name for it. I can't change that.
I know, I'm just saying, you know,
Right.
it's a little confusing when I see window contracts and I'm going, okay, where do we put windows?
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes,
Mayor Fox?
Yeah. 2022-260, approval of membership participation in the Bi-Board National Purchasing Cooperative Program. Make a motion to approve 2022-260.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes,
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
yes,
Mayor Fox?
Yes. 2022-262, resolution in response to,
261.
oh, I'm sorry, I skipped 261, CCTV. Authorizing CCTV pipeline rehab services through National Water Main Cleaning Company.
Mayor, I have a question on this one before we,
Did I finish reading?
I'm afraid you're gonna make a motion. Please read, and then I'd like to have a conversation.
Why would I make a motion? Without questions.
I was anticipating you might, I'm sorry. You've done it before.
2022-261, authorizing CCTV pipeline rehabilitation services through National Water and Main Cleaning Company via state cooperative contract. Question?
Yes. I'd like to just understand, I know we do have a description, and I think somewhere in here I read it was covering 46,000 linear feet perhaps, or I know this, I gather the idea here is that we're going to video cam all of our sewers, is that, that's my first.
Yeah, you guys actually gave me permission through a resolution to get it out, and that's what I did. So I got the proposals, and this is what we had gotten back.
Thank you for that, but from a scope standpoint, it's all sewer lines or all?
Sanitary,
I'm sorry?
sanitary that hasn't been replaced.
That haven't been-
Phase 3, 4, 5. Those,
Yeah, your existing phases, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, and whatever might be left to. And I was told by a resident who's knowledgeable that this was done 5 or 6 years ago. Does anyone, I wasn't aware of that. Is anyone else aware of that?
I asked if this was done when I first took the position here, and I was told no, it was not.
So that, I mean, that's a potentially significant issue if it was done 5 or 6 years ago, or could it have changed dramatically?
Actually, if I can maybe ask somebody that might be in the audience that might know, they're probably the person that would know. Jerry, do you know if we videoed the entire sanitary line for the
No,
future?
we did not. Last look into the sanitary sewers went back to my predecessors in 2010. when we came on board, we felt it wasn't necessary because we knew that the system's 100 years old and has to be replaced anyway. We felt like, why spend any of that money on that service when we know we're gonna come in and we're gonna replace it all? And that's the approach we took with phase 1, phase 2, and I think the borough should continue that.
Okay, so did you just, as an engineer, say that we should continue with phase 3, 4, and 5, but not do
Well, I've
that?
always recommended you guys continue with the plan. You know, the fact that, you know, I'm not sure the nature of the TV, maybe it's to find out worst areas to address them first. That
Correct.
Could be. And in that case, there could be some value to it, but to just go ahead and TV 100-year-old system when you know it's got to get replaced. I'm not sure that there's a lot of benefit. Well, there was other issues as well. Was it on Second Avenue or? Kim?
Yeah.
Second Avenue or
The lateral.
Yeah, we had laterals that went,
the laterals that went all the way across, you know, under the First, Second Avenue, underneath the median, and not having, you know, sewer put in where we thought sewer was, right? So that's true through the whole system.
yeah, right, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
There's laterals that you didn't know existed, T-off laterals, that will.
So when they TV this, they're gonna find all kinds of lateral connections that have been taken away and replaced.
Mhm.
So the value is less and less as it gets older and older. Unless you have a specific area in need that you're looking at. I don't know.
So, and I have a question, is the idea here that we're gonna do this, the video, the lines, and then as a result of that, we're gonna find out if if the sanitary pipes can be lined and therefore they don't need to be replaced? I mean, what are the chances of that? Because I'm hearing two things. I've heard the mayor say before that, oh yeah, we can just, find that they can get coated on the inside, lined with something, and they're going to last a little bit longer. But on the other hand, I'm hearing they're 100 years old. If you get another 10 years out of them, what's the big deal? They're going to have to get replaced anyway. So it almost sounds like that whole, lining the pipes from the inside is kicking the can a little bit. Is this video thing primarily regarding to see if we can just get away with lining the pipes from the inside?
I think what it is, it's a little bit of both. If there are portions of the sewer that really, the pipe that don't really show, even at 100 years, a significant amount of wear that we might be able to extend that life, we should consider it. We all know the section, phase 2 was pretty significant. It was one of the most significant elements of it. It took a lot of time. If we can avoid that, and bias time, I'm not talking about buying a couple of years, but if there are parts of the sewer that we can minimize, I think we should at least consider it. So Kim, I don't know if you want to comment, because part of this input came from CME, some from.
And
also.
Diageo.
Yeah, so maybe you can make a comment.
I mean, in phase 2, we learned, we had a little bit of unexpectancies, which happens with any project. I think if we had a video, it would have been better.
And Kim, sorry to interrupt, but by those unexpected things, do you mean like laterals where they shouldn't be and going, is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, like there wasn't a main where there could have been a main. Like, that type of instance that, remember you guys had to do that change order? It was like
$175,000.
it was $175,000 change order.
Okay.
So,
So can I make a comment on that, please?
yeah,
There was no pipe in that section.
right, yeah, that's what I said.
Right.
Yeah, there was no main, there was no main.
And
Right.
because the laterals were long laterals that went all across the park.
Mhm.
And you guys correctly said, why don't we run a main down there and
Mm-hmm.
pick them up on short laterals so we can protect the park and everything else that we did not.
Right, and then, there was a problem we had gotten the NJDOT grant, we did a video on that side of town. Because you guys started on the south side, not the north side.
Right.
And there was a problem with the sanitary line there, so it would tell us better, what area we might need to change the phases. If that, if that's need be, because we're having more of a problem, I think, on the north side. Than we are on the part that we're doing the phases now. And you could always break this up too. I mean, if you decide you don't want to do the remaining of the phases, we could go back to the drawing board and lessen the scope. But I don't know if that's, what you guys would want to do. Biagio is not here as well. I know he felt pretty strongly about this.
So your recommendation is to move forward.
I would.
Okay.
We did fund it, and it was actually reserved brought over from previous years for videoing the lines, which might be why one of the residents thought that we actually did video it, because it was funded years prior.
That didn't do the work.
We didn't do it.
So this would be coming out of reserves as opposed to.
Yeah, when Anthony went ahead and canceled reserve to
We
outlay.
had money sitting on the general ledger that we appropriated, like Kim said, years ago, that we utilized in the budget to bring in as a revenue. So it was money we just had sitting there. that we
Yeah,
used.
it was in a reserve, so it doesn't count towards like a surplus or anything else. It wasn't appropriated, so we put it into capital outlay.
Yep.
Well, it's not changing your fund balance.
That's actually one of the comments that the auditor had. There were scale balances on the balance sheet. So
Excellent.
us taking those reserves into the budget and utilizing them for this is us clearing that
What we're
comment.
supposed
Trust funds, all those good things, yeah. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve 2022-261.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
I believe when this came up last time, I suggested that we only video the couple streets that had recently been paved to see if we could line those and get some additional life out of the paving. I don't think that we should go wholesale and video everything, so I'm going to vote no for the same reason this time.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yeah, I was undecided, coming in, I was, very anxious to ask my couple questions. And my last question, which Mr. Frida beat me to, was, is this effectively a Band-Aid on a significant, open wound? Because we do have 100-year-old terracotta pipes. And I figured they've got to get replaced anyway, so. I just think there's better things right now we can do with $138,000, so I'm gonna vote no.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
I will vote no as well.
Mayor Fox?
I'll vote yes. Okay,
262.
what's that?
262.
Yeah, no, next one, 262. Okay, 2020,
You got, okay, sorry.
2022-262, resolution in response to the results of non-binding referendum question on November 8th, 2022. General election ballot to consider the future of 319 Lorraine Avenue, also known as Block 41. Lot, want to make a motion to approve, Mr. Mayor? Yes. Yes.
You just chastised me for interrupting you.
Yes.
You were about to make a motion.
Comment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The question I had with this particular resolution, I 100% agree we need to move forward. The borough's, residents have voted, on this property, and we will not move forward with a community center, blah, blah, blah. But what concerns me here is, I think this wording is just too open-ended. We are basically stating that we hereby direct the borough's business administrator to review and prepare options for the property and present those to the mayor and council as to how to proceed. And my concern with that being open-ended, I think it puts too much of a burden on our VA to anticipate what, one, the council might envision, but two, maybe more importantly, what the residents would envision. So I would like to suggest that before we make any motions, we consider changing the language to say that we will have a workshop that the council can discuss our thoughts about that property and invite the public's input on that. Once we collectively explore the council's ideas as well as the public's ideas, we can give our VA much more specific direction to say, okay, let's review at least these 5 ideas and then anything else that she might become aware of. So I don't think this wording is, I think it's inappropriately broad, and I would not support this.
So the conversation in developing this resolution with the BA, and I'll ask the BA to comment, was that we would in fact come back with options. It could be in the form of a workshop. It could be input from the council between now and that workshop. I'd ask the business administrator to comment on her background and experience with this kind of a task, because that was the question I asked before we developed this resolution.
Well, I imagine what is warranted with this resolution is that you would be tasking me with coming to mayor and council with the different options, whether it's auctioning, bidding, which would go back to auctioning, about subdivision, different types of development plans. And then at that point, you would decide, do you want to workshop it or do you want to move forward with the resolution? Well, that's
No,
up to you guys.
no, I agree. I agree with the way you just described it, and honestly, that's why I thought it was too broad a task to ask you. I thought we should give you better direction before you pursue that.
So given what you just heard from myself and herself, is this adequate?
I'd like.
I mean, I've done it before.
Yeah, but I'd like the public to weigh in. What if the public, well, again, this is just my opinion on this. I guess I'm telegraphing how I plan to vote if we don't change the word. But I would like there to be open discussion with the public. Public says, I like this. I'd rather, I don't know, subdivide the property, demolish the building.
This should just get tabled then, because this is a totally different.
Have the workshop and then further refine. Is that what you're saying?
All with the goal of giving our VA more direction.
Understood.
That's how I.
Kim, have you had, what's your specific experience with this? I mean, do you see what?
Well, I've taken multiple different types of property and have brought it forward to mayor and council about the different options. I mean, and then you bring them forward to the public and then you get the public input. That's your task usually is the government to do that. It's not taking away the public input by any means, but it's presenting to them the options that are acceptable and allowable. Because there's certain things that you can and can't do with publicly owned property. It's not the same as private. Just the same as if I was here when you bought the property, I would have suggested a different route on inspections and such. Like, I think that I think that's what you were wanting out of this is just, I come forward with all the different options, so we have a meaningful workshop. Because what I feel happens a lot of times, everyone's wanting, we don't discuss enough together as a whole, and when we come to workshops, we bring up ideas, but there's usually not resolution. And I think the best way to have resolution is by having all the information before we even bring it to the public. So everyone can make an informed decision.
And that's my expectation of what you would do.
It's my job. I
Yeah,
mean, usually it's
that
not a
is your job.
resolution having me do that, but I'll do whatever you want me to do.
I don't know if others have comments, but that's, again, I
Well,
feel like.
yeah.
I've got a direction. with the public.
My comment on this is that if you think about this process, that when I got involved in February of 2021, and the amount of input we've gotten to get to where we are, I think, I think we kind of got to a point where the resolution was voted on. I'm not the resolution, I'm sorry, the referendum. And it mirrored pretty closely to what the survey results were, which was again to inform and let people know what was happening. This is a different phase of it, but I think to Kim's point, it's a phase that has to have some structure to it. And that structure should be, I think, somebody with her appropriate experience. So I'm comfortable with this as it is. My expectation is you're going to come back with the expertise you bring to the table and give us those options and subsequently workshop it with the public. That's my input. Any input?
think that's, you know, there's only a limited set of options for what we can do with this piece of property. And I'm comfortable with this Humphrey working with the borough attorney and what other, ever other professionals need for you to start the path forward, then bring those options here. I won't be here, but you guys can all discuss them and discuss them with the public and go from there.
No other input, so I'll make a motion to approve 2022-262.
Second,
Mr. Bennell,
I like the idea of a workshop first. So I'm gonna vote no.
Mr. Gubatose?
I also would prefer a public workshop.
Yeah.
I have full confidence in Ms. Humphrey's ability. I just think she'd be even better served if she had the input of everyone's on.
Mr. Sexsmith?
yes,
Sorry, Councilman, Bennell's vote was in opposite to what he said, so this would. Voting no would allow for a workshop to happen first. He said he doesn't want. Can you just clarify?
Randy,
Yeah,
are you saying that you want a workshop first before doing this resolution?
yes,
Then his vote was out.
I'm sorry, so his vote was.
It was correct.
It
based on what you-
with what he was saying.
I misheard.
Okay, Mr. Gubatose?
Now I'm afraid to say yes or no. I would also vote to have a workshop first.
So you're voting no.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
No.
Mr. Sexsmith?
yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes, you're.
Yes, meaning I would like to approve that resolution.
Mr. Weber is recused.
Thank you.
That's right, I'm abstaining.
Mayor Fox?
I vote yes. Okay, we'll move to announcements. There are none. Mayor and council reports. Before we do the mayor and council reports, I thought I'd ask the business administrator to make her comments.
Larry, can I ask a favor that I go first? I'm fading fast. I gotta go.
Sure.
My report's very short. The first date for the operational period ending November 22nd, 2022, the squad responded to 18 calls and 18 day calls, 17 night calls for a total of 35. 27 were medical, 8 for fire. The squad provided crews for the boat crash and the beach search on 11/12/22. The squad provided medical overwatch for the Alzheimer's Association 5K. There were no out-of-town mutual aid requests. The squad requested no mutual aid for this operational period and fulfilled 100% of their assignments. For the fire department, same period, they responded to 8 requests for department. The department conducted 2 training drills for the safety and education of the members. The department provided standby crews for the boat crash and beach search on 12/12/22. There were no out-of-town mutual aid requests, and the department requested no mutual aid for this operational period. They fulfilled 100% of their assignments as well. And I would also like to congratulate Bob Napoli. The fire department got a state grant for $40,000. He put some hard work into it at the very last minute to get it done. And I believe last week they sent us a notification that it was approved. Both departments wish the residents and their families a safe and healthy Thanksgiving. That's the end of my report, and have a nice night, everybody.
Okay, Kim, would you like to go?
Sure. Thank you. I missed the past couple of meetings, one due to a medical issue for me, one for my daughter. I apologize. DPW had to repair the railing over Fletcher Lake. There were a little bit of sinkage going on due to the way that with the impaction of the settlement in the ground. So they fixed that. So if you see the railing standing up straight now and not moving, that's why. DPW had the band shell, Riley Park power washed and restained. Sanitary phase 2, Avakion is working with the borough contractor and subcontractor with this current phase of work, and the project is running on schedule to date. CME prepared a utility pole survey. We are finalizing the mapping, and we plan to review this by year end. That has to do with the wires hanging from the pole. We also did the Beach Avenue drainage study, but that presentation was given tonight, so I really don't have to go much into specifics on that. And I hope to resolve the issue. ADA improvements to Lake Terrace Park. We are planning a rebid this month to put back out, the bid came in a tad bit too high. Improvement to Park Place Avenue is partially funded through NJDOT grant and our ordinance. These bid specs are just being finalized and we should be ready to go out to bid soon. I received pricing proposals from CME for CCTV for the resolution passed by Borough Council for the remaining of the sanitary lines. That failed tonight by resolution, so I won't read the rest of that portion. The Borough Bradley Beach Fire Department was awarded a $40,000 American Rescue Plan firefighter grant. This was through the assistance with CME and the fire department, myself, CFO. We submitted for this grant. We had it prepared and got everything done, squared away, $40,000 for emergency equipment. Borough Bradley Beach and Avon by the Sea have entered into a shared service agreement to mitigate the outfall pipe and associated structures that are failing. The award for an engineer is upcoming and evaluation bid specs will then be prepared accordingly. Currently, the borough collective bargaining agreements are being reviewed for compliance and changing regulations and codes and laws. I'm doing that with the employment attorney. The process will begin next week, where I actually sit down with the unions to go over the different findings that I have. I have to say each union contract, I think we came up with probably 4 pages worth of changes and updates that we have to make due to federal, state, and municipal changes. These union contracts being negotiated will serve us for the next upcoming couple of years. Which Fletcher Lake Commission has submitted the recommendation of replacement benches, the benches that they wanted to replace. I am working with the vendor now on setting up an account and making that purchase. The order process for 2018, 19, 2021 for employee health benefit deductions, which we began last year. The mayor, that is now complete. The mayor and I will review this. This is where we had employees, when I was looking through the budget, our cost for employee benefits didn't always offset correctly for the amount of deductions that were being received or that we were paying out for benefits. And it turns out that this was quite a large report finding for these years. And I look to resolve that by the end of this year or early next year, which will be a liability to the borough. We're still in the process of the payroll assessments during that same review of the appropriations in the budget. And Angie and I preparing the budget last year, we found that there needed to be a payroll assessment through an audit firm to assure that people are being paid the right rate federally on the state level, overtime, the correct overtime rate, whether they are part-time or full-time, if they're being offered the correct benefit package. This is just about done. I'm hoping that the audit firm will have this done in the next 2 weeks. Again, we went back 18, 19, 20, and working with employment council on that as well. The 2023 budget process has already started with the CFO and I will be sending the zero-based budget increase letters to the departments for their requests for salary, other expenses, and capital items next week. And I just have one employee that took personal leave and for the winter, and hopefully they will return this spring. That's all.
Thank you. Councilman Gubitosi.
As the liaison to Fletcher Lake, there's no stole my thunder, but yes, they're very excited about the new benches and the garbage pails and recycling that they are selecting for the Fletcher Lake broader area. Sylvan Lake has just made a request, Ms. Humphrey, if you're able to reach out to Aunt Lydia. I see Ms. Kathy Martin in the audience, but I know Sylvan Lake has been anxious to get updates, and I haven't had the details to share with them about some of the activities taking place in and around Sylvan Lake, the sinkholes and the crumbling retaining wall and so forth. So is that something you might be able to reach out to them on to bring them up to speed?
I can go to the next meeting.
And then this really isn't a comment, it's more of a question, and perhaps it's more for our CFO, but just curious, when will we begin the budget process, Anthony? Do you have a sense?
We've already started.
When will it be shared with the council, the first phase of it?
Well, we have to end the year, so it won't.
Preliminary budget probably in January, which is what the state requires.
Okay, no, that's great. I think last year we got such a late start. I just want to get a sense for if you thought we were on track. Okay, thank you.
Council President section.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The police activity report since the last council meeting, a subject was arrested for burglary following an investigation on Main Street. Another subject was arrested for defiant trespass, and a few days later, burglary and separate incidents. A local man was arrested for passing bad checks. In addition, the police provided support to Neptune Township Police, and I believe the state police, for the standoff situation last week in Neptune. I want to say the SWAT team set up in the fire hall is a sort of a base area to operate out of, and I'm sure that Neptune and the state police are quite happy with the assistance. And lastly, but not least, they wish everyone a great Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me, I'm gonna start with the boat crash from a few weeks ago. We got to see a lot of our different departments working together. Certainly our DPW was on the scene, made a big difference, as mentioned, our first aid and the fire department, as well as, of course, the police. But they had to work with and integrate with also the state police and other towns and another town's DPW. So a lot of cooperation there, which was really great to see. On the Shade Tree Commission, Councilwoman-elect Jane DeNoble and myself and Shade Tree Commissioner Nick Kosarich went to a continuing education course on tree pruning that was hosted by the Seagirt Shade Tree Commission and the Seagirt Conservancy over in Seagirt. So that was, we spent part of our weekend doing that, which was great. On the Environmental Commission front, our energy aggregation, as kind of expected, as I was sort of leading up to, we were not successful in the energy aggregation bid deal. Basically, we couldn't find energy at the price we were looking for it. So nothing changes. This will happen again in February. And we just will go out to bid again and see if we can find energy for the price that we're looking for to save people money on their energy bills and to get more renewable energy in the mix at the same time. The Shade Tree Commission also, we took a look at the trash cans around Sylvan Lake, and we noticed that most of them, now I can't remember if it's 5 or 6 trash cans, they're just single trash cans. They're not, there's no recycling associated with them. We did this, the Environmental Commission did this years ago on Main Street, and we pointed out that most of the cans on Main Street are just either a single recycling can or maybe usually a single trash can. They're rarely together. I'm a big proponent of you need to have trash and recycling together. You need to make it easy for people, and we get more stuff recycled that way. So hopefully, and maybe it's the same around Fletcher Lake, we just didn't look there. Hopefully anything that gets looked at Sylvan Lake, one of the things we can look at is maybe adding those trash and recycling cans that put the two together. And one other thing on the Environmental Commission, there's been a vacancy since March, and I just want to ask Mr. Mayor, do you have the names for a replacement for the vacancy on the Shade Tree Commission?
Actually, I got a recommendation from the chair. It was probably a week ago. I just haven't had a chance to follow up. So yeah, there's a recommendation.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I asked her the same, and I just, that it's been vacant since March. So that's why I'm wondering if we need to look at this again and maybe tighten this up, because I just feel like we could have missed out on some talented people contributing maybe for the last 8 or 9 months or something like that. Now I'm gonna talk about the election a little bit. When I was out there knocking on doors, I definitely got the question a lot. I got, why is it so contentious up there? It's never been like that before. And people are right. I can't argue with that. I think they absolutely are right. But I think one of the reasons that why it's so contentious has been on full display here tonight. And, this is a democracy. A majority of the council should be setting what's on our agenda. We even passed an ordinance earlier this year to clarify that, to bring our code in line with state statute. But this was ignored here tonight. And we had 2 items on the agenda that were in contrast with what the majority of the council asked for. So if we want it to be less contentious going forward, I think we need to recognize it's a council of 5, a majority is 3, and if we can count to 3, we're just going to get along a lot better. I'd like to thank those who congratulated me. I'm accepting apologies for people who said terrible things about me that were not true. My door's open. My inbox is open. My ringer is on if you want to call me. I think that's part of what can bring this town together, is basically apologizing to people that you said terrible things about. So open to that. Some of the things I saw in this election really sickened me, and the corner of Evergreen Ave and Ocean Ave is chief among them. We have a sign ordinance that says there's no signs in the planting strip, and there's no signs in the beachfront, and there's no signs in public parks. While political signs are exempted in this ordinance, I will recognize that. I don't understand why we just all can't agree that, we don't want to look at political signs in the planting strip. I just don't understand this. So, somebody puts a dozen signs in the planting strip on that one corner, and then the other side sees that and they add more signs to that. And the next thing you know, there's 15 signs in the planting strip. And I just think it's really crazy. Hopefully we can figure something out about that for next year. Or then I guess 2 years from now. But it is what they call campaign season. A lot of things are out of the ordinary that are done. Well, I don't think we should accept it. It seems to be what happens. So here's what I think should happen after the election. The gold standard for me was election night 2008. Now I watched Gary Engelstad walk across town to a restaurant and congratulate Julie Schreck for becoming the mayor. I can't see any reason why this was not the case in this election. Now I know some people are going to say, well, the results aren't final. That's just hogwash. If another candidate won at the machines, then you could congratulate that candidate. And then if that changes as they count additional votes that came in not on machines, then that person can congratulate the other person who went ahead of them. I mean, this is not that hard. I don't know why we can't just congratulate each other. I certainly extended congratulations on election night. There's another thing I think that's hugely, hugely important to bring this town back together after this campaign season. Campaign season's over. People should close their campaign accounts, their bank accounts, as soon as reasonably possible, and they should get on with the business of the people of Bradley Beach. We should get on with the business of governing. Because if you leave your campaign account open after the campaign, that makes everything political. Either it means, or either that, or it means you have an axe to grind, maybe. And this includes you, Mr. Mayor. You're not on the ballot for 2 more years. So I'm going to ask you right here and right now, why don't you close your political bank account? Will you commit to that tonight?
No, I won't.
Okay.
No, because for any number of reasons.
Well, I don't ask the reasons. You gave the answer. That's fine. But if you don't, it just makes people suspicious. Okay. And they say, well, what's that all about? It's never been that way before. Again, we campaigned. Once the campaign was over, you closed the accounts and then you got on with governing. And people are asking me, why is it content? Why has it been like this? It's never been like this before. Well, this is one of the reasons why, I think. And then when you don't close your account, then other people don't close their accounts. And then we have this arms race of political money. And it's just not good for Bradley Beach. So I'd like to see everybody close their accounts. With Randy Bunnell's loss, I will.
Question?
No, it's my time. With Randy Bunnell's loss, I will become the longest serving person on the council, which seems ridiculous because I have only been up here for 6 years. So you're going to have to tolerate this, the long perspective of all the 6 years of mine every once in a while. So that is my report.
Thank you. And I guess I'm surprised, it's my turn now, with my comments, that I'm pretty sure that there were a number of candidates from 3 years ago, they kept their accounts open. From an administrative perspective, opening and closing accounts is a pain in the neck. So I take a little bit of exception to your targeting me for that, but you know, that's certainly your prerogative.
But that's true. Some people left them
I
alone.
think- Sorry, it's my turn now, yeah. You know, around, you know, contention in full, as you mentioned, contention in full display. I still believe, you know, this model is what is called a strong mayor model. And I had a conversation with our borough attorney on this today. The spirit of the vote of 3 came out of earlier last year when we had a number of things on the agenda. And I asked, I think it was Councilman Weber actually, to cut a few things off the agenda. That was construed as me trying to control the agenda. No, it was trying to be more effective and efficient. I don't think there's, and I have no issue with having a vote if somebody wants to put something on the agenda. The spirit of our form of government is that the strong mayor model is that you direct that agenda. If there's something that keeps coming off the agenda, there's a council vote to put it on. I've never, in the 2 years I've been here, I've never, for any period of time, taken anything off of the agenda. If anything, for one meeting. And it was more around the efficiency of the meeting, saying we got 15 items and we're not going to get through them. In most cases, that's the case, and that's what's happened. For me not to have the ability to put something on the agenda, I'm going to really go back with our legal group and say that's just ridiculous. I think we did a disservice tonight to the people of Bradley Beach. I think that our land use board and our land use planner had some thoughtful ideas, and I think it should have been a discussion, it should have been exercised. That's the way I feel, and it's unfortunate. Councilman, I can count, so I appreciate that comment too. So my other comments are that Election Day did happen on November 8th. I want to congratulate our congressional, county, and local officials. I think somebody made me aware today that there might be one recount underway or starting or in some phase. I'm not sure where that is. Additionally, as you know, we talked today about the non-binding referendum on 319 Lorraine Avenue. I think we've settled that. I think that's important. I think it's been a very arduous process that we went through, a difficult process. A process where I believe there was a lot of alignment at a council level. So if we want to talk about unity alignment, I think almost every vote that was conducted on funding, on developing recommendations, on developing options were, if not unanimous, pretty close to unanimous. So it wasn't a aligned process. It wasn't an easy process. I've been through this kind of process in my private business life, and it's a never easy process, and you never have everybody happy. But I think we had a good process in place. You know, Councilman Weber talked about misinformation. There was a hell of a lot of misinformation relative to the process and the whole project, which is unfortunate. But I think in the end, we're moving with the people's will, and that's what's important. And the more we can develop ways of conveying things to the public and getting the public input, I think is appropriate and important. And I think we did that in this case. We celebrated Veterans Day on November 11th. I was particularly happy to have Patrolman Rafiq Pickett. He was honored as our Memorial Day honoree. Patrolman Pickett is a graduate of Neptune High School, Brookdale Community, and New Jersey State University. He had a 21-year career in the Air Force National Guard, and that was just exemplary. We were really lucky to have him. This is his third community he's worked in. He worked very briefly in 2 other communities, and he's been in Bradley Beach for about 15 years. We changed up. And this is only the second Middle East era veteran that we had, so we were very pleased, and a local guy was just great. He will also be our honoree at the Memorial Day Parade. We've changed it up and we link both together, so we provide that honor to both occasions. I do want to recognize another veteran, our council president, Tim Sexsmith. He was at the ceremony with a number of, I think we had one Korea veteran. Unfortunately, the attendance was down somewhat on a number of fronts. The weather wasn't great, but I think we can do some things next year to increase that participation, which is extremely important. There's a couple of older things that unfortunately the newsletter didn't go out this month. I'll just mention a couple of things quickly. On October 22nd, there was a press conference and award and recognition ceremony at the firehouse. The department generously gave back proceeds raised from the 5K run. Gave it to our school superintendent for the 8th grade class trip and some other really worthy groups. Senator Vin Gopal attended and gave a generous contribution to both fire and EMS. For those who don't know it, he is an active EMS member and has been for years. On Sunday, October 30th, we had a trunk or treat event in the parking lot, had the Halloween parade, a costume contest, cider donuts. I think everybody had a good time, and we're getting back to normal thanks to the fire department and all the volunteers on that. So I've got a little bit of mixed news after that. Hopefully it's going to turn out good. We were planning for the annual bonfire to be this Friday evening. We had to make a command decision today and push it to Saturday. The weather looks good for Saturday, it looks bad for Friday, and it looks horrible for Sunday. We hope we can reestablish this on Saturday. We're going to get a reverse 911 call out tomorrow and let people know, and also advertise it everywhere we can. So Sunday was to be our tree lighting, but the weather there's a 98% chance of bad weather and it just doesn't look good. So we'll keep you posted on that. One of the options we're exploring, and I think we're going to be successful with, is there's the Christmas Village, I'm not sure the exact title. No, the market, Christmas market that we do in Riley Park. We may be able to link those together on December 3rd and have that during the day, and then go into the tree lighting and those ceremonies that evening, which would be great because I think it'd be a kind of a full day of fun. Stay tuned for that. We'll get announcements out. We apologize. I know this is the 3rd year in a row we haven't been able to hit the bonfire on point. It was COVID 3 years ago. Last year was a horrible windstorm, and hopefully we'll be able to dodge a bullet on this one. An important report was issued by our tax assessor early this month, the Bradley Beach 2023 assessment report. Very informative document. For those who haven't seen it, is it on the website yet, Kim, or have we put it on yet? It's on. Average value of property for 2023 is up 20% in Bradley Beach. In keeping with our promise of affordability, we've managed to be able to keep our spend level down, which is very important. We've made some pretty significant spend level reductions over the last 2 years. So although appreciation values have gone up 20%, we're not seeing that with tax rates or not rates, but tax bills that people are getting. We've been successful at a local level, and at a county and school level, we've also been pretty successful. So we're going to keep trying and plugging at that. It's going to be a little bit more difficult this year with union contracts and again, the continued cleanup we do in our financial systems. We're progressing. I think Kim mentioned it on phase 2. Final laterals are getting done. Happy to report that we've got a lot of curb and driveway apron work done on 2nd and 3rd Avenue. We're continuing on that path. We're applying asphalt as we can, and as we get into the crazier weather, we're gonna have to pull back a little bit. But I think people on 2nd and 3rd Avenue are finally seeing some relief, and I'm very happy about that. I am disappointed that we did not pass that resolution today. I do believe our professionals gave us a recommendation that I think we can maybe not make the sewer project in phase 3, 4, and 5 as dramatic as it has been in phases 1 and 2. I lived through phase 1, and I know there's a lot of people who lived through phase 2. It's a tough 9 to 12 months. So my last comment is that many borough employees attended the New Jersey League of Municipalities conference last week. Some really good courses and vendor information. A lot of our professionals get certified in different areas and get CEU credits. You can see, is it CEU credits?
Yeah.
CEU. A couple of highlights we're going to be pursuing. We found a pretty agile sidewalk street sweeper that we can use in inclement weather. It takes brine, it takes salt, it moves pretty fast, so we might be able to help clean things up pretty quick in some areas of town at a reasonable cost. The second thing is that we're going to, we've already contacted Avon and Ocean Grove, a lightning warning system, which we may be able to deploy at our Lorraine Avenue lifeguard station, and would go out as far as Avon and Ocean Grove, so we could share the cost of that and create a safer environment at the beach. One of the issues at the beach this year, we had, I think, one situation where we had to really pull people back because of lightning. And the good news is they got off the beach. The bad news is they stayed on the promenade. We got to work harder at getting people in a safer position, but this system goes out to about 20 miles out, so it's pretty impressive, and we're going to look at that. There's also a 911 system that it's, I don't want to go into a lot of details on it, but it could be very helpful to our school, maybe the synagogues and churches in town. We met with the vendor, and I think there's maybe some pretty good solutions that we're going to try to exploit coming up. With that, I did attend this morning for a little bit. I was a little late as Lieutenant Browning, I don't see Lieutenant Arnold with the test. I was a little late this morning, but it was a full day in service training for our for the police department. The full team was there. I spent some time talking with them, but more importantly and more unfortunately, I participated today in a lockdown drill with the police department, and given what we've seen happen in Colorado Springs and some other places, it was a pretty sobering experience, and I was extremely impressed with our police department and the school. I think there were a couple of failure modes that we have to address as we saw, but nothing by and large it was very successful, and the department did a great job. So I'd like to commend them on that because of the importance of that. These folks keep us safe, and I very much appreciate it. That is my report. With that, I will we'll go to comments. Yes.
Thomas J. Cohen, 612 Third Avenue. I do want to compliment the council for voting down the videoing of the sewer. I think that was very important. I really look forward to the open public meeting about and workshop about the church property. It's very important to everyone in town that we get that right. I also want to clarify some misinformation. Mayor, you continually call the James a hotel, okay? But I'm going to tie this into your elect account for political donations, because in May, you received a $500 donation from Mr. DeStefano, and it's listed as his employer is the James, a bed and breakfast. Okay, so maybe it is a good idea that you close your accounts. Besides the other funds you took from the political PACs in Trenton, it does not look good. It's not a good look. So I just wanted to clarify that, and I also want to find out if you could tell me who wrote this ordinance number 22-18, which was delivered to the public on Monday. This 2-page document to make a hotel and a motel a conditional use is one of the worst written documents I've ever seen. And it's so specifically written clearly for someone. I'm going to read something here. It says, the minimum lot area for a newly constructed hotel lot shall be 10,000 square feet. The minimum lot area for a hotel utilizing an existing structure shall be 3,600 square feet. I'd love to know who wrote this to find out where they got that and who specifically they're targeting. This ordinance is not written broadly like most conditional use ordinances are. Also, there's no parking requirement. I mean, really, this has got to stop. You're trying to do these things. I also want to make you aware of the fact of two other things. When Mayor Engelstad was the mayor, I did file suit against the town for entering things onto the record at the meeting and not even putting them on the agenda. And that was another successful one. That was settled, and it was cured. And also, I want to say about this videotaping, Mayor Engelstad stood in this room, held up a big piece of pipe and said, these are our sewers, we got to change them all. So there's no Band-Aid here. It's time to just get it done and schedule it out properly. And thank you. Hopefully I clarified the misinformation, and I hope this conditional use doesn't show up again. But can I ask a question? Who did write it? Because it's really funny.
What are the professionals?
Oh, it's a professional that you hired. Okay.
I didn't hire them, no.
We hired as a community. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank
Thank you. Trust your professionals.
Trust your professionals. I trust my professionals. Yes.
Dr. Tom McGuire, 610 Brindley Avenue. I know that there was a resolution passed about funding the church to fix it. I think it was like $250,000. Are we gonna keep trying to fix it right now? Are they stopping all the work? Are the fences gonna go away? Or are they gonna stay there?
The work is already complete.
Oh, it's done? Oh,
It wasn't to repair it, it was to protect the asset. So it was patching holes. The windows were leaking in the, can I talk in common? Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, yeah, so
I
the
appreciate
windows
it.
were, the windows were leaking. Water was going through the masonry.
Yeah.
So we had to stop that because the foundation was.
Yeah, no, I
starting
know
to
it's
down.
protected. I didn't know if it was finished or not. Is the fence still up around it?
It's ordered to come down. Another company put it up, so it's
Because I know
on
they
schedule.
charge monthly or.
Yeah, we already put in the request like
So that's
2
okay.
weeks ago to come down. They just haven't.
Okay, cool. The next question is, when is we're just gonna start tracking the rentals or Airbnbs? Do you have any idea about that?
No, we need to, we have some work to do on that, starting with the ordinance.
Okay, and as far as fees go for supplying our insurance for rentals and businesses, when will that start? January 1st? So it could be another year before we start finding the rental people?
No, we need to come up with a rental registration fee. It's just creating the ordinance, the fee ordinance for it.
Okay,
So that's just 2 readings.
so it won't be too long. My concern
No, I
is
think
just
it's
that.
a quarter. I
business-
would say in the first quarter, we might
Okay.
not have it down. pat.
Because as a business owner, I know I'm gonna be paying this fee, and I'm an easy target. I'm on Main Street, everyone's a business owner, so I have to pay $25 right away, and that does my landlord. And so the tracking system is not only gonna track rentals, so they're paying their COs, it's also gonna track them complying with it. And I know we did say the fee is nominal, but we might differ on the word nominal. I can go apply for a weapon for $5. So I'm just concerned that I know it's 25 times 100 businesses approximately, times divide that's businesses plus the landlords, so that's a double, so that's 50 times 100. So that's my math, sorry, that's 5,000, right? Yes. Anyone say no? So $35,000. Okay, so that's $5,000 we're just making off of Main Street. It feels like it's a money grab to me, and that's one thing I dislike about government is when they try to just take money because they can. You don't have to, because according to the state law legislation, it says may put an expense on us. So it would be great if you can decrease that significantly or make it $5 or $2. I don't care about that. It's nice, but it feels like you're making money off of us instead of actually, I know it's gonna be enforced and you're gonna take money for that, but we still don't even have a process yet and we already have a fee. So that's my concern. So hopefully you can decrease the fee And when will we know about that, as far as the fees go?
The fees.
It has to get adopted through the ordinance, that's why the ordinance has to be
Okay, so
presented,
that would be,
and then the policy and procedure will then ensue.
so that would be on the next meeting possibly, and then it would start on January 1st.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
Rich Justman's 603rd. Let's see, got 3 items here. I don't know who was involved in the decision on putting some catch basins on Hammond and Third, but thank you. It's way beyond my expectations. We never had a water drainage problem on our street before the water company changed the elevation there, and it created a body of water. I've learned from some neighbors recently, they've been referring to it as Lake Destin. So it's no longer that way, and the downspouts are working very well. Next item, I lived in a private community before I moved here for 10 years. 9 of those years, I chaired what they call an external affairs committee. And I was basically the committee that and had to get up. I was a liaison person between the community and the town. One of the things that our group did, we ran debates.
You ran, I'm sorry, you ran the what?
Debates,
Oh, debates.
yes.
Yes, got it.
And we did that. We were very, very successful in it. In the beginning, we used the League of Women Voters, but in the end, because of the people that we had on our committee, we thought we could do a better job. And we did it. I did it myself for a couple of years, and we had other people that did it. It was very successful. We had very, very strong comments on what we did. What I'm leading to is this: the debate that we had in this town, I have never seen a debate like that before in my life. Aside from the ones that I ran, and people in my group ran, and others that I've attended over the years, I never saw one. I think if we have a debate, we should have a real normal type of a debate, not one that was so tightly controlled and orchestrated the way that was. Lastly, last Saturday, I live on 3rd Avenue at the park. There was a company there with lots of equipment and removed a bunch of trees. Those were put there when we first moved in, and we moved here in 13, and that's where we were put in. I talked to people, and it appeared to be a shade tree committee type of a group that was involved. These trees have finally grown to a point where they really enhance the look of the park. They're gone. Does anybody have any information about this?
Disease.
Okay.
The ash trees that are diseased. We're gonna have to remove about another 80 trees.
Okay, okay. I'm totally uninformed on that.
Yep.
Hey, thank you.
Mary Baxter, 282 4th Avenue. Just a couple of things. Mayor, you talked about the contention and full display. Yes, it
Oh, I'm sorry,
was.
the what?
You talked about contention and full display
I
earlier, and
don't think I did, somebody else did. Go
Well-
ahead.
there was contention and full display. And there has been before, and that's on all of you. But, and I'll be honest, when Al was asking what I thought were valid questions, there was a lot of eye rolling. By the way, I'm an eye roller, so that's not the big deal. But that is not actually the issue here. And maybe there's rules against this, but if you're only getting a report on Friday, which is the same time you're having the presentation. Why wouldn't you, as a courtesy, extend it to other council members so they can ask their questions there? Whatever. I mean, why this would people, if council members, they need enough time to look at stuff. Clearly, there's extraneous circumstances. We can't do that. But again, I have to go to meetings that long. This has happened before. So I don't understand why. Early in my career, I took a new job. I didn't get along with people in the UK because I thought it was a shit. But guess what? My boss made me live in London for a summer, which wasn't that bad at all. But the point is, I work with these people I didn't get along with every day. And guess what? Started getting along. Been much more productive relationship. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just saying this doesn't work. And it's gonna be the same dynamic.
Are you doing this or this? I'm sorry.
This, what I'm doing is you guys
Yeah.
going after each other all the time. And you perpetuate that too, Mayor, and I just don't think you should, that's all. We don't need tit for tat and that kind of thing. The issue was certain council members were not involved, they didn't have enough time to look at it, they wanted a little bit more information. Would I want that information? Heck, no. But I'm not a CPA, I don't have 10+ years experience as an auditor, right? So I'm glad you're asking those questions now. I just think, I don't know, sometimes we go off the rails here. And the other thing, Mayor, I want to say, you're always selling Kim's experience. Don't. With Kim, you have experience, very clear. The issue is, and what
I
comes
just don't
across
want
is
this
you
to
guys,
about me.
very experienced.
You need to stop. You need to stop.
I just
You
don't
need to
want this
stop.
to be about me.
Yeah. you
Okay,
need to
that's
stop.
fine.
Yeah.
But it's not about you. It's actually about you. To hear again and again, well, these experienced people, they looked at it. So I guess Al or somebody else who wants to look at it can. Or it
That's not-
doesn't have
That's not the
to.
case at all. That's not-
Really? I've heard this before. I heard it tonight.
As I said,
When that's-
as I said earlier today, first opportunity we had to review this, and typically the first review of an audit is with the business administrator, the CFO, and mayor. Following that, the information went out. Following that, the final information went out. Went out as quickly as we possibly could. And there is an opportunity for the council to ask the auditor questions. That's gonna happen.
I feel like there seems to be a burning platform to get a budget approved by a certain time. So, well, I heard that.
No, all we asked the CFO was, does this hold him up? And it does. The certification is a simple process. It's 5 or 6 pages you have to read and say, okay, I read them, I understand what they are. This audit's 188 pages. I haven't gone through every page yet, and I need to do that over the next couple of weeks. But can I certify that I received it and I looked at the comments? Yes, I can, and that keeps the process going. So it's not a question of, you can imply that we're holding information back. We're not holding information back. This was a late audit, and part of the reason we had a late audit was this auditor and this gentleman over there had a hell of a lot of work to do to untangle some things and get them straight. And I feel like we've done that. So, I think it's a little bit unfair. in this
No, I'm
particular
not
case.
judging the body. I think, I'm sure it was a good process. I have no concern about that.
Mhm.
But the issue is people don't have enough time, and even if you don't have enough time to read a 180-page report, you probably saw the presentation for whoever prepared that report. And you probably could ask questions or anything,
No,
right?
no, we
No.
got the report in
ask
the
anyone.
morning and we
Well,
put
then-
it there, they report it.
Just invite, just ask them, make them optional. They
It's
probably won't
usually
come
not a
after.
regular
Yeah,
process. It's not.
I know, and I don't know if it's allowed, I'm just throwing it out. I want to say one more thing. Tim, you did a disservice to the mayor and the rest of the council. The snippy stuff on Facebook, and by the way, I'm an offender of it too. But when you say that my wife is doing all this illegal activity,
Didn't say that.
that's, yes, she-
I ordered.
I have it on my phone. I screenshotted it, and what is all this illegal activity?
Have no idea. I was making a
Okay, so
joke.
somebody-
Apparently it was a bad one. I apologize.
Okay, because that's why, and I don't appreciate it. I live in that house. I don't see drug dealing, I don't see murder, I don't see B&D, I don't see any of that stuff. So, you basically libel her. I'll leave it there, but just think before you post stuff.
Thank you.
As I said,
Thank you.
I apologize. It was a bad joke, bad attempt at a joke.
I'll be close this time. Linda Dunn, 312 Wyndham.
I'm sorry.
Congratulations to everybody with the voting and the results, and I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving before I'll forget at the end. I have a few things. I wasn't sure when I should ask this question, but I'll ask it now if anybody has the answer. I was concerned with the sewer lines being doubled to go and they exit out into the lake. Will the lake be able to sustain a large downfall at one time without flooding on the other side?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
We have, that's why we have an outfall pipe.
Well, exactly, but that's not working right now, is it?
It's working, it's just, it's,
Is that enough to take it? That was that question.
We have an engineer nodding his head yes to that.
Yes, okay, I figured that, thank you.
What I know of what's proposed.
Thank you very much. Also with that insurance that everybody has to have, who is going to evaluate the quality of the insurance that you have? Do you have enough? Don't you have enough? You have too much?
It's the requirements are in the ordinance.
I know, but
Yeah, it's coded for.
like, where,
We
I
just
don't know
have
where
to
to
file it. We don't, we file it. We don't,
you're saying that we have insurance.
we have to file it. That's right.
And
And
I
then
don't even understand why we. Just.
I, if the
Why
governor
are
did
we
it,
even doing this? Because I could have like $3 on my house and $2 on my back house and it burns down and she's out and I'm, you know, like.
the governor put this into effect, so we just have
I have
to
to write.
follow through.
Okay. All right, and with the church, I would like to see some progress in I know people love that church. In removing it during the winter, so the summer isn't destroyed because it's gonna be done during the summer. And then we can all decide what we want to do with the property or give suggestions. That's just my opinion. And I just want to ask a question for you. All right, so all the monies that we generate, no, it's a comment. I don't know exactly where it comes.
Maybe it's the mayor
All
and
right,
then
Mayor.
supplement.
The monies that we generate for the beach and the projects that we did last year, increasing the showers, putting in the ramps, that all came out of the beach fund, right? They're all paid. That's all paid. So the new money that we get will be for new projects. That's all I wanted to ask. All right, and the parking meters on the beach, is that beach money? Can we increase those?
You can do any number of things.
That's just, okay, thank you
Good
very much.
question.
Everybody have a safe holiday.
Anthony, I'm sure Anthony jotted that down. Yeah. I'm sorry, no, you've been trying to get up there for the last half hour, sorry.
Hi, I'm from California, actually.
So you're in the wrong meeting now.
I'm
You gotta say who you are and where you live.
okay, Valerie McCaffrey, and I live in Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
I am the lead producer on the film Dear
Oh,
Johnny.
I got a warning that you were showing up. here.
Yeah.
Not a warning, it just, I was.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it's valid, right?
Yeah, it's Valerie. As you know, we're shooting a movie in the general area in Bradley Beach. We're at a home. We had a late start on getting proper location manager to help us out. So we've made some mistakes, but we have corrected it. I went around to the neighborhood and talked to all the neighbors. The one neighbor who I believe complained to you has agreed that he will allow us from 8 to 8. We normally work a 12-hour day. We would come in at 8 and we would be done by 8. We normally work a 12-hour day. Christina, our director, we had a big meeting today, trying to cut the script and do everything because it is the hero's house of our story. I'm hoping that, I know we have a police officer that's assigned to us. But I'm hoping that you guys will agree to have us those 2 extra hours, because I know the city ordinance is from 8 to 6. But we're not gonna load out, we had some trucks on the street where the man was experiencing a bad experience, but we're not gonna have the trucks there anymore. We're creating a better environment. Like I said, I talked to the neighbors across the street, neighbor behind him, and I explained what we were doing, and I'm hoping you guys will agree that we can have those 2 extra hours so she can complete her movie. She's a Jersey girl. We worked 6 years on this movie. It's a true story of a man who owned a diner in Asbury Park, who gets dementia, and I'd really like to finish this movie.
And I would like you to finish the movie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Valerie, from Los Angeles.
Mia Moore, 302 Fourth Avenue.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Mia.
wanted to just bring up a couple of things. One is I understand that there's a fee of $500 an hour to hold any kind of a public program at the recreation center. Could be wrong, but also it's my understanding that it's much less not too long ago. Just wondering why it's so high. And if no one pays it, does it just stay empty? Where no taxpayers are benefiting from our recreation center that we've all paid for.
Yeah, that's, do you want a response?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not the cost, exactly. You can go to the recreation coordinator and there's actually, a fee scale. There's a table for different amounts of time and, I don't know if whoever it is that you're asking for or yourself is looking to
Oh,
have
for
a
the community,
program.
actually. because
Yeah,
we
no,
have public programs.
So what happens is if you're doing public programming, there's like 3 different options to hold a program. there.
Okay.
So if you're
I
running
want-
your business, so if you're running your business out of the recreation center, that burden shouldn't be put on the taxpayer, even though it's a community function that might be offered there for usually a fee for that business. So that's why there's usually that one fee that if you're gonna use the, the building 1 day a week for 8 weeks, there's a certain fee. Then there's another fee that if you want to have a program, the borough can pay the person to do the program and then collect the registration fee. Then the other option is you can pay to use the center and then it's almost, you pay X amount of money, but then a certain amount of the registration goes back to the recreation. So there's
Okay.
3 different options, but if you get
Good
in
to know.
touch with the recreation coordinator, she can help you, or email me and I'll forward the email
Okay.
over.
That's helpful. So I went on our website today just to see what is scheduled or anything going on at the rec center. There's a few programs after school
Mhm.
care for kids. But I couldn't see any kind of calendar or anything on the website. It was just
I'll check.
zero information.
Mhm.
There was just a name and I emailed that person, but it was only today, to be honest with you, so she may
Okay.
not have gotten back to me. But I am curious, like, what happens when it's empty?
There's usually
Why would it
things
be
going
empty
on.
when there's an opportunity to help somebody in the community and others in the community with an
No,
exercise
there's somebody there,
program?
yeah, no, there's someone there full time to have, yeah, that people can
Okay.
go in, they could read magazines, newspapers. Yeah. Whatever it is that's going on, there's yoga that goes on there,
I didn't see that on the website.
yeah, so
That's-
I'll check and see what's going on. with
That
them.
kind of stuff should be posted. And I guess I have a little time. I did want to say one thing regarding the elections, just an example. Transparency is very important, I think, to most people in public, and that's what a lot of this tensions are a result of, is that people don't have information or certain information is not disclosed, people don't get the whole story. That's the rumors that are out there, which causes the community to be concerned about the climate is now in Bradley Beach from a political standpoint. And just an example of this, and I don't want to single any, but a name out, but I guess I am. Is there any way for our next election that it is required that the candidate has to physically live in Bradley Beach before they run for an office? Because I have to say, Tom Gavin,
So,
he gave a nice presentation at whatever that date was, but he already lost credibility with many of the voters because he didn't live here for
Yeah,
the
well,
15 years
yeah.
that he claimed he did.
we're
I know this has been brought up
rehashing,
before,
we're just
but
rehashing something that,
but I'm wondering if that can be changed, that they
No,
they have to physically
no.
live here. They can,
No.
anybody can have an address. But you have to physically live here. The point of living the 1 year is to be a part of the community, know what's going on, and then to go out and campaign on something that's a lie.
no.
Bradley Beach does not have the power to change. that.
No.
No, is that a state
No.
thing? But couldn't Bradley Beach create something like that? Well, anyway, so he's lost a lot of credit, which is a shame for him, because he
Yep.
went into that election thinking, oh, it's okay, because he was blessed by the mayor who wrote a letter saying you should vote for this guy, and he didn't even live here for 6 months before he began.
Okay, anything else?
Sorry,
You have something else you want to cover?
you're skipping what I just said.
No, I'm not. I heard what you said. I wrote it down.
All right, then I mean, I just think that that was important. It's a shame on him, because now I have to pass him, like, oh my God, there's the liar, and it's a shame.
That's just not really not appropriate, those comments.
That's not
Time's up.
fine.
Thank you. Yes. Mr. Shutes.
Eileen, here's 112 Fourth Avenue. I heard you say something about a street sweeper. Was that correct?
I did. Yes.
You did. Is there any hope that we're gonna have our streets cleaned from the sewer company? I mean, we have stones all over Fourth Avenue. I mean, we're living with the bumps and the all of that, but they left debris all over the streets still. And I remember, I think it was when it was the summertime, I specifically showed you bolts that they left on the street and you said you would take care of it, but the debris is still there.
We'll look into that. We
Okay,
have
and
a-
it's all on Fourth Avenue, it's just not on our block.
Yeah.
The project engineers here, I'm sure he'll contact the contractor in the morning.
Well, that would be nice. And I will also like to go on record that I would love for Bradley Beach to be the only town, beach town, that does not have hotels.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion, yes.
Nancy Meadow, Ocean Park condominiums, and I speak really fast because I do not have room for everything on my list, because I have to repeat things. So I really hope that the next time and going forward at every meeting, the screens are set so that all can see them. I still am waiting for, I see numerous people here that are not on this, that the people on the screen can't see, and that have not been introduced, that receive money from the borough of Bradley Beach. I'm tired of it. If they're here, they have a bias and or are representing us, we need to know. I don't know, maybe I didn't take my riddle on this morning. I did not hear anything regarding setting the prices for the senior badges
Yeah, we think,
prior to, did I not hear it?
yes, you did not hear.
How much are senior badges?
35.
35, so they went up.
Thought they were 35.
Okay, bottom line is, if somebody wants to buy a Christmas stocking stuffer, how much is a senior badge? I know you can't answer a question, so.
We can get back to you. We can get back to you.
If you can email.
It's gonna be posted in, it's gonna be posted in the next couple of
Well,
days.
that's a whole other issue that I wouldn't put on tonight. I certainly hope that the person who's taking a leave of absence, that you expect to maybe come back in the summer. I can't help but wonder if they're collecting unemployment. I also am very confused with the protocols here. It is my understanding that there's 2 places for public comments. One regarding the consent agenda, which is after the minutes, the other now.
The agenda.
And yet. Erica was asked to read something right after one thing this evening, and at the last meeting. Somebody, Dr. Heplich. Sent an email to be read during the consent agenda regarding a resolution. The administration wanted it to be read at the end of the meeting. That was not its purpose. That is not my understanding of your procedures. And had it not been for Mr. Weber, it would not have been read at the appropriate point. There's only one person who's supposed to run the meeting. It would be really nice if he followed the rules. Speaking of rules, I understand there's a photo contest with the calendar. I don't understand how it can legally be open to employees and their families. It also says it will be judged. Who are the judges? What are their credentials? Why would somebody even submit something without knowing that, given the problems of the calendar photographs in the past? It just keeps going on and on regarding the new website. We spent another $8,000. I see less information. I see the same incorrect information. I do see a really easy font to read. If I can locate the calendar and see if there's an event, there's a little pin dot. So I didn't even know we had a Veterans Day thing, because I thought that pin dot meant legal holiday borough closed. Nothing is alphabetical. I shouldn't say nothing. Many items are not alphabetical. Many items are not chronological. So the goal being to undo everything that was fought for and this is my 5th website in 3 mayors, is just another example of how, in my opinion, you waste the money and how you ignore what we, the people, want. I want to say that this is clearly the town of Beverly Beach. It is not Fox Beach, it is not Humphrey Beach. And I really come up here every time we have a meeting, only once this month, because you totally ignore what the people want. And this happened with so many things. And gee, the church bit from January of 2021, well, there was a lot more that went on before that. And quite honestly, the goodwill of this town was spoiled. We had people willing to do stuff, but the message sent to we the people is we can do it all better. We'll spend the money and we'll pay professionals who supposedly know better, because we do not want your help. And you know what? We're the ones that live here. And we want our lives our way. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Captain Lauren, 14 Rapid Boulevard. I haven't come to a meeting in a while. Plus, I've been listening at home, and listening is enough. But my question is, there's quite a bit of argument. There's no nativity set this year. There's no candles for the Jewish community. I wondered why. I looked out there and I thought, there's a lot of argument going on, but there's no God left in this town. What's happening? What has happened? Where did it go? I called and I remember you helped me, Kim. There was no flag for 9/11. The flag was up for 24 hours. We lost people at 9/11. What's happening to this town? I've lived here 50 years. I've never seen the likes of this. And now to see that the nativity set is gone and the candles been community, something's wrong here.
They're coming. They're
I
actually going.
hope
up.
so,
They're
because
going.
they are usually in there by now. So give it some thought. You gotta get back together. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no other comments. There are no executive session items, so we will move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm. Sorry, just bring it on. What? I got a job at law.
Yeah, no, that's great. And welcome.
So I'm gonna set, I'm gonna send you guys up to give me your contact.
Yeah.